Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто водить всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 932 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And some major Russian facilities are on fire and burning, like we love to see it. And also, Putin is threatening a new red line with NATO. And it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, as we have gotten major news that a new Ukrainian push is happening at this very moment. Just 5 minutes before we went live, this came out that the Ukrainians are beginning in advance south of the Reka Seym, near to the area of Veselo, and appear to be crushing the remaining brigade that has been has been largely caught on the southern side of the Reka Seym up till this point. This was already brought on today by a heavy series of Ukrainian airstrikes and artillery bombardments that targeted the last crossings on the area of the Reka Seym, and making sure that this brigade is completely trapped and doomed to its fate on the southern side of the river. We are going to be trying to get y'all as much information and as much analysis on this major situation that we possibly can, as this may be the death knell for an entire Russian combat brigade that is currently on the southern side of this river and has been trapped here really ever since the beginning of this offensive by the Ukrainians. Major news, and just came out. And I'll be showing y'all a little bit of information that we have here in just a second, but we were also able to hear some really major things happening elsewhere as well. We were able to hear of a major fire happening on a large production facility inside of the city of Omsk that apparently was vital to war production efforts. We were also able to hear that Putin has come out today and has threatened war, the likes of which has never really been seen before. The statement was a little bit more direct, and it actually seems as though there's been a serious argument about whether a red line really will be crossed soon or not, as this is right on the cusp of the United States about to announce that Ukraine can fire other people's weapons deep inside of Russian territory. A really big blessing by the United States, because of course Ukraine must have America's blessing to use British weapons and such things inside of Russia, but that's beyond the point. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But moving on out of the Moscow area, we also finally got video proof of the Su-30 that was shot down the other day west of the Crimean Peninsula inside the Black Sea, as we were able to see that the Ukrainians actually released footage that they got themselves of the Su-30 being engaged and shot down over the area. We are assuming that the pilot was most likely not able to make it out of the aircraft in time, and most likely went down with the plane as well. A very serious loss for the Russian Federation. Not only that, but at the exact same time, the Russians also lost an S-400 surface-to-air missile battery within the area of Crimea, and we actually got footage on the ground from a Russian soldier showing the entire surface-to-air missile complex going up in flames and rapidly exploding after the Neptune missile ended up hitting the area of the surface-to-air missile facility. We also got major news of a Ukrainian strike that happened in the city of Mariupol, causing very significant damage once again to another depot that the Russians have within the city, and once again possibly hindering fighting efforts of the Russians around the area of Zaporizhia and further west and into the area of Kherson. At the exact same time, massive losses have been inflicted by the Ukrainians today, not only inside of Russia in the Kursk Oblast, but also around the areas of Vovchansk, the Severonsky Forest, Chasiv Yar, and Pokrovsk, as the Ukrainians continue to hold their defensives in all directions and ensure that the Russian Federation makes very little ground, and if they do make ground, it is at the expense of incredibly high casualties. And we have absolutely loads of news to cover beyond this. These are just the major talking points of the night, but there is a lot of little details that we have to get to here and there to make sure that we paint the news story accurately, and we have an endless amount of news. But starting off on our first major bit of news that actually came out literally 5 minutes before we went live, and we were able to grab this, the Ukrainians are conducting a new offensive axes into the area of the Kursk Oblast, and it is actually around the area of this marker right here. Now, we would have geolocated this marker incorrectly, but considering that the satellite footage had already been geolocated at the time that this was uploaded, about at this point 20 minutes ago, it doesn't seem like hiding the exact geolocation would be prudent at all, because this information is already out there quite easily about exactly where this breach is being made. But according to the information now we have, we can see the Ukrainian forces are moving in on a new direction in this area, and I'll be showing y'all right there. And that is exactly, to bring y'all back to this map, right over here. As you can see, Veselo is just north, right there. There's Veselo, spelled in its original Russian Cyrillic alphabet, and from what we can see right here, A breach has been made through the Dragon's Teeth on this area of the border, and Ukrainian tanks, this one pictured here, some sort of a T-64, are already starting to move in and are beginning to advance up into the area of Veselo and eventually up towards the area of Glushkovo, the major holdout that the Russians will most likely have south of the Reka Seym. This is a major development if we've ever seen one so far, because this is actually showing that the Ukrainians are finally closing the trap door, in a sense, on the Russians that have been stuck on the southern into the Reka Seym for quite some time. We have seen the Ukrainian artillery efforts and airstrikes have been targeting this area deliberately more so than others, and we've largely assumed that that's because they are trying to weaken the Russian forces in this area for an offensive to be successful and either completely destroy this brigade or force a large part of it into surrendering. With what the Ukrainians have done today, we are understanding that they are still trying to pursue that primary objective of either completely destroying all Russian forces on the southern side of the Reka Seym or forcing them to surrender and taking a massive amount of prisoners in exchange. This means the Ukrainian offensive south of Reka Seym will be advancing from the Komarovka direction, about 7 to 8 miles away from Glushkovo, from the border region near to the area of Veselo, which is about another 7 miles away from Glushkovo, and also an incredibly minor and largely inactive area around Tekhino on the other side of the river here, which is about 16 miles away from Glushkovo, but is of course within fighting distance of the only other major settlement south of the river, which is the city of Tekhino. All of this is showing us that the Ukrainians are going to be trying to constrict the Russian forces in this area and try and inflict as many casualties on them as possible and also take as many prisoners as possible. We were also able to get video footage today to corroborate this analysis because they are not allowing the Russians any viable path of retreat, as we have seen the Ukrainians targeting and destroying the remaining pontoon bridge crossings that have existed within this area. And to show you all one of our first clips, we can see one of those crossings being targeted and destroyed today. We believe that this is the only one that is still operational at this point, and we can see right here an MLRS launcher that is very close to the bridge and is pulling over alongside a tree line to possibly wait for an opening to cross the bridge or maybe for the go-ahead to start moving elsewhere. And we can now see it getting hit dead on by a Ukrainian artillery strike, completely obliterating the thing, and we can see another Russian running for their life down there. Oh, bleh. We can see them driving.
Was that a Russian in like a four-wheeler or something, or was he just running down the field like that?
Looks like a lot to me, but they are making a run for it, man. They're not sticking around to see what happens with the MLRS.
They're like, Bliat, the bridge, Bliat, it's going next. Oh, look at that.
Oh, a little bit of a
little
fireworks
spicy
show.
bit.
Dang, I mean, this is actually one heck of a fireworks show. You don't really get to see this often, folks. You don't really get to see a lot of Russian MLRS is just getting obliterated near a bridge crossing like this. And once again, furthering the idea, the bridge crossings are in a great deal of jeopardy. And in a second here, I'll show you all another clip showing one of these bridge crossings being completely wiped out today. And so moving on from that and into our next little clip that we got to see, we also got to see the 14th Brigade hitting the crossing. Now, one thing I want to make sure to let y'all know is that this is the exact same bridge from the last clip. You can see that's oriented on the banks of the river the exact same way as the last clip that we saw. It's just that this one is a thermal image or an infrared image instead of a normal camera image. So we can see the drone flying around in the circle here. We can see a massive Russian buildup on this side of the river preparing to cross, and we can see that they've actually crossed and they're moving on their little merry way. We can see another group massing up on one side of the river and getting ready to cross as well. As we can see, a special equipment vehicle trying to create a better crossing or a access to the bridge, and the whole thing got hit by a cluster round. Isn't that nice? It was a HIMARS round that had the little tungsten ball bearings, and it flung them everywhere. The Russians are now panicking and freaking out. They're trying to figure out a way either to get to safety or to get away from the bridge. And we can see them all grouping up. Of course, we all know that according to the Russian infantry doctrine, grouping up is the safest thing to do because it means that you don't have to worry if the unit gets hit because everyone gets wiped out at the same time. Very smart, very efficient. The design is very
And they
human.
just effectively seasoned the area with salt and pepper. And also, it's like the Russians really don't understand. It's like they have thermal imaging. Like you can see right here, we're looking at the thermals. Hiding in that tree line right there and grouping up is not going to save them. I guess in their heads, they're thinking like that's the best case scenario is to go into the tree line. It's just not going to help. Like they found that out. They got salt and peppered.
Man, the Russians got hit the first time near the bridge, and the commander said, "Quick, everyone, let's go to our pre-designated heading spot." And they all gathered around the trunk of this tree, and they were all like, "Oh, they can't see us down here." And then it went, Here in a second, there we go. And it just sprays them all with
Man.
tungsten ball bearings, and they're like, "Oh, Blade, they can see, Blade!" And then they go running away. But
They
anyways,
must have abolished the 2-group ruling because they were in like a 10 group or a 12 group there.
man, they said screw 2 group, whole group. Like they said, whole group over here. But moving on from that and a little bit further on down, we also got to see a mine layer that was hanging out apparently on the northern side of the river. We don't know why, but it was on the northern side of the river. It ended up getting absolutely obliterated today as well. And we can see the mine layer right there. Oh, wait a minute, y'all. This is actually the same clip from the bridge crossing earlier. I misidentified it as an MLRS. This is actually one of those little rocket-propelled mine layers that fires off the rocket, well, the mines kind of like an MLRS rocket, but instead of it actually having a high explosive warhead, they're anti-tank and anti-personnel mines, depending on what they have kitted them out with. So, sorry about that. That is actually a duplicate. I actually thought that was a completely separate MLRS. And we were also able to see that over in the area of Komarovka, the Ukrainian engineering vehicles were clearing the way. Now, this one was deliberately mislocated because we didn't know that this was attached to the area around Veselo until just 5 minutes before the stream. So we're actually going to be moving this one to once again correlate with what we saw over here in the imagery, because we can actually see the Ukrainians clearing the way across the border near to the area and beginning their new offensive push on the very southern side of the Reka Seym area. Well, you see right here an American recovery vehicle, or an engineering vehicle if you want to call it that, clearing the way, bulldozing the Dragon's Teeth, and we can now see the Ukrainian tank behind it on standby waiting to advance across. We can also see some Ukrainian sappers as well clearing the area. And that's the end of the clip, but once again showing the beginning of a new major offensive within this direction, and once again confirming, according to our information, that the amount of time that the Russians will have to be able to control this area will be quite low. It seems as though the Russians already understood this, at least to a limited capacity, as they did try and conduct a counteroffensive about 72 hours ago against the Ukrainians building up at Komarovka, most likely to try and throw the Ukrainian offensive planning off kilter, as one of the primary fronts of advance would be at least engaged and fixed in combat already and would not be able to move. That may have been the reason why the Russians tried to conduct an offensive in this area, because beyond that there was no logical sense in doing such a thing. This unit is going to be depleted supply-wise, and most likely cohesion as well will be depleted because of a lack of supply, and for that reason trying to conduct an offensive with a force that is in that sort of a shape was a fairly bad idea, at least with the concept of trying to cut off the Ukrainians' border access around the Sucha area and try and work their way around. That didn't really make that much sense, and so now that we're seeing that the Ukrainians actually did, 72 hours later, begin their offensive across the Russian border at Veselo, once again adding a new offensive direction south of the river, we are now understanding that the Russians may have been trying to conduct that action as a delaying action, but instead of it delaying anything, they actually hit a brick wall, took some considerable losses in a very short amount of time, and then called off this offensive to try and break up the Ukrainian offensive planning that was already going on at that moment. Moving a little bit further on up and into the Korenivo direction, we also got to see Ukrainian operators of the 95th Air Assault Brigade destroying Russian forces around the Korenivo area in the fields just outside the town. And we can see the drone hitting right there. Oh, it hitting dead on the nail. Impressive stuff. And we can now see another FPV drone flying in and hitting a BTR-82. Pretty impressive stuff. Really like to see it.
Those things are so fast, those drones are, to be able to catch up to all this equipment like this. Like, I was just thinking, it has to be able to overtake the thing and speed up faster than the piece of equipment rolling. Those things are booking it.
Man, they really are. I mean, it's pretty much like a guided artillery shell with a camera on it with the kind of speed it gets these days.
Oh, was that a minivan? What was that?
What was that?
What the hell? It looked like a minivan or something. I couldn't tell, though.
I think that is a minivan, man. Like, dude, that is 100% a minivan right there. That's like a Honda Odyssey or something like that, a really old one.
Damn, Putin's even bringing out the soccer moms now. He's getting real desperate.
Dude, Putin said, they have crossed the red line today. We have to bring out the soccer mom blade. We have to have her hit one into the goal or really complain to the referee of the children's game. One or the other. But they got it. I mean, they blew that thing away. And no, that was not a loaf. That was 100% a minivan right there. I saw some people saying, maybe it was a loaf. No, absolute disrespect. It was a soccer mom minivan. Moving on from that and on into the area of Suja itself, the town, we also got to see a captured T-72B3 in the area of Kursk. And take a look at this thing. It actually has some interesting armor modifications added to the lower plate. We can actually see that whoever unit this was attached to, they actually started to fortify the bottom lower plate of the tank by adding a whole load of Contact 1 ERA down there. That is not normally there. Usually that lower plate is left wide open with really no armor because there's a small dozer blade that can be deployed on the lower part of the hull. And this is actually obstructing that dozer blade from deploying. But I don't really think the Russians cared that much about the dozer blade at this point. They cared about armor protection, so they started to add a whole bunch of Contact 1 ERA tiles to that area. We can also see here the Russian offensive marking for the Vovchansk front, which is showing us that the unit that had this tank had actually been relocated from the Vovchansk front, and even still, they have not situated into the Kursk front and given a new kind of a defensive emblem or a unit emblem for the units that are currently fighting inside the Kursk Oblast. Another interesting detail showing that there most likely is no unified cohesion within this area, because we even see that their symbology still is not unified and cohesive, once again denoting friendly forces uniformly to every other friendly unit in the area on the Russian side. So that is one other interesting thing to take, and it looks like they tried to correct that by just painting a Z up onto the top of the turret, so that way if the Russians didn't know, other Russian units had never seen the Vovchansk offensive emblem, they would know the Z emblem instead as being Russian. So it looks like they tried to correct that a little bit, but it's kind of a bit of a shoddy effort, if anything. And then finally, in our last picture, we can also see some kind of graffiti that was painted onto the side of the tank. We don't know what this actually says. I can't read it, and on top of that, it's written quite poorly, to be entirely honest, so I really can't understand what that is, but still, it is very interesting to see the Ukrainians were able to capture another T-72B3, and once again, reintroduce that into their own armed forces, so that way they can hopefully fight the Russians even better with their own equipment, because it seems as though that's doing pretty well these days, and the Ukrainians ought to keep that kind of stuff up. But not only is that keeping up, but the amount of Russian factories that are exploding and burning in multiple different places throughout the Russian Federation is steadily increasing about day by day at this point, even in the far reaches of the city of Omsk. Omsk has been mentioned very few times in this channel before, but it's one of the major cities, one of the few major cities that lies beyond the Ural Mountains to the east and is really deep inside the Russian Federation. To give you all an idea of how far away this is from Ukraine, this is about 1,400 miles away from the nearest part of the Ukrainian border, and that's not even counting the active Russian front line that would actually push this a little bit further, and it actually would be somewhere about 1,528 miles away from currently controlled Ukrainian territory. To put this into perspective of how far this is, that is the same distance from the city, from the Ukrainian border to the city of Omsk, as it would be from the city of London to Moscow, to kind of give you all an idea of how far that is, or in another metric for all of our American viewers, because, you know, the whole thing of Europe, you know, Europe is a kind of a small continent, so we'll measure it out here instead. 1,500 miles would be the distance about from New York City to kind of almost Denver, Colorado, or really Colorado Springs, just to kind of give an idea of scale here about how far away this really was. But moving on back into the city of Omsk, we were able to see that there was a major fire that occurred in a facility in this area. Matthew actually made a really in-depth video on this today, and apparently from what we know, it's some kind of a military plant that was producing materials vital to the war effort.
So this plant right here actually helps make the TOS-1 thermobaric launcher, and also it helps modernize the T-80 BVM tanks. So also they work on some other stuff as well. It's basically like a big workshop where they bring in a bunch of old equipment and they try to basically bring it up to modern spec. So it's basically one of these places where they try to like fix stuff basically.
So really, it's like any modern Russian war factory. It's really just modernizing old stuff.
Yeah. Basically, the interior looks like a mechanic shop, and they have a bunch of old equipment sitting around. They have guys working on it, and it's really slow.
I see. Very interesting. Also, I don't know if I'm seeing this right, but this looks like a Russian commuter train also broke down at the same time this thing was on fire. Because if I'm correct right here, this looks like a Russian helper locomotive had to pick up this thing and start hauling it off somewhere. So it not only did the factory catch on fire, but apparently a commuter train in the local area also broke down as well, literally at the exact same time. So it was not a good day for the Russians in Omsk. A lot of people were late to work. They might have been lucky that they were late to work because it looks like the workplace may have been on fire. OSHA is having a conniption fit right now, and the Russian OSHA just died of a stroke. Come back tomorrow for more information on that. But beyond that, it is very interesting to see that such a major facility caught on fire and burned to the ground, as this will once again be greatly reducing the Russians' already limited modernization efforts, because the truth is that the Russians didn't really have a modernization effort going at the moment because of the heavy sanctions. Now, the interesting thing about the distance that this is inside of Russia is that there isn't really a way that we know of right now that the Ukrainians could have striked it. And that was really the reason why we pointed out the absolute distance. The farthest that we've ever seen the Ukrainians strike into Russia is around possibly the Izhevsk and Vodkinsk area, which is about 880 to 900 miles inside the Russian Federation. And we've also seen strikes going about as far north as almost Murmansk at this point, which is once again about 800 to 900 miles away from Ukraine. So going off of that information, we know that this is well out of range currently from what we would know from the Ukrainian drone and missile strikes. The Ukrainians don't have missiles that can be fired into Russia hardly at all. It would be drones, and they also don't have the range for that at the moment. So we do not really know what caused the fire and the partial or majority destruction of this plant. It could have been pro-Ukrainian partisan activity. It could have been anti-Russian partisan activity. It could have been a workplace incident. We're not entirely sure, but we are going to be trying to hopefully get more information on this. But once again, unlike other categories where we can usually give a follow-up on this kind of news from Russia about what is happening at their sensitive facilities and factories like this is very few and far in between. Beyond the fact and the information that there was a major fire at this facility, we are probably not going to get any information beyond this point about the condition of the plant and the severity of the damage that was caused, and if it'll ever be brought back around to being operational again. All of that information will pretty much be thrown to the wayside, and we won't be expecting any updates because the Russian Federation will mostly be keeping this heavily under wraps, and will probably be saying that the plant's perfectly fine and everything's going 100% according to plan, which we know isn't true because about half the factory burned down, but we won't get any information beyond that. But moving on from the area of Omsk, deep inside the Russian Federation, it is now time for us to move on and into the city of Moscow, because this actually moves us on to the second biggest bit of news that we got today. Putin actually came out today and appears to have directly threatened the West with some form of action, some form of a crossing the red line. And I'm going to play the audio. We actually have two different clips of it. One's fairly long. We also have a duplicate that's a little bit shorter that appears to have been filmed from another angle. But I'm going to be playing both of them so that y'all can hear it as best we can from all angles that we got, so that way y'all can try and come to your own conclusion about what was said, if it means anything at all, and what will be happening as a result of this. I'll also be reading the subtitles for this one, considering the importance of this, considering that this is one of the few times we've ever heard a direct statement from Putin and not one of Putin's lackeys inside the Russian government. So we will be reading this and muting the audio. So here we go. In recent days, we have seen and heard that at a very high level in Great Britain and the United States, there is a theme that the Kyiv regime will be able to strike deep into the territory of Russia with long-range Western weapons. And apparently this decision will either be made soon, or apparently it has already been made. And these things, of course, are extraordinary. I would like to ask you to comment on what is happening. And now this is Putin. There is an attempt to change the concept because it's not about the permission or ban on the Kyiv regime to strike on Russian territory. It is already being done with the help of unmanned aerial vehicles and other means. But when it comes to the use of high-precision weapons, this is a completely different story. The fact is, and I've already said this, and any experts will confirm this, both here and in the West, that the Ukrainian army is unable to strike with modern high-precision systems of long-range Western projectiles. They cannot do this. This is only possible with the use of satellite intelligence data, which Ukraine does not have. This data is only from satellites of the European Union or the United States in general, from NATO satellites. This is the first and the second and very important, perhaps the key, is that only NATO servicemen can carry out flight missions into these missile systems. Ukrainian servicemen cannot do this. Therefore, we are not talking about allowing the Ukrainian regime to strike at Russia with these weapons, or not allowing it. We are talking about making a decision whether NATO countries will directly participate in the military conflict or not. If this decision is made, it will mean nothing else as a direct participation of NATO countries. The United States and European countries in the war in Ukraine, this is their direct participation. And this, of course, significantly changes the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries and the United States, European countries, are at war with Russia. And if so, I mean the change in the very essence of the conflict, repeated about 4 times now. We will make the appropriate decisions based on the threats that will be posed to us. And that was the complete answer.
I gotta admit that Putin has always been making threats like this for a long time. Like, this is nothing new for him. And most of the time, the threats are mundane and they really don't turn out to be anything. But I will say this is one of the first times we've heard Putin directly make a threat to the press. And it looks like he actually sought the press out this time to make the threat. So it could be simply a saber rattling. But honestly, I have a suspicion that this one might be a little bit different. I'm not sure if he's willing to go to war with NATO, because that would be a little bit extreme, and he already knows he would lose that war unless nuclear weapons were involved in it. So, to me, it seems like the threat might have some validity behind it, but not necessarily like, World War III starting, but it seems a little bit different to me.
Maybe so, but before we make too many comments on this, because this is one of the biggest things of the night, let me make sure to show our backup clip here, which is a little bit shorter, and it seems to be showing the same answer, but from a different angle, and possibly with a different answer, or at least a slightly different translation. So let me make sure to show this one and read this one as well, just so that way we can make sure that everyone hears every available way that this was said, because this one was apparently posted by Kremlin.ru, which is directly from the Russian government, so we would assume that this translation is probably trying to convey at least a little bit more approximately the exact threat that's supposed to be conveyed to the West. So let me put this one out here really quickly, and then we'll get right back to it. The question is about making a decision on whether NATO countries will be directly involved in the military conflict or not. If this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct involvement of NATO countries, the United States, and European countries in the war in Ukraine. This is their direct involvement, and this, of course, fundamentally changes the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that NATO countries, the United States, and European countries are at war with Russia. And if this is the case, considering the change in the very nature of this conflict, we will make corresponding decisions based on the threats that will be created for us. So as you can see, there was a slight difference in the translation that we had in the subtitles here on what was being said, but once again, the underlying theme amongst both of them, the original clip that we had, which posed the entire question and answer, and also the one posted by Kremlin.ru, which was just the answer itself, both of them are giving us the idea that the Russians are claiming that if the Ukrainians use long-range Western weapons against the Russian Federation in deep strikes inside of their territory, they are going to be trying to assert the claim that the United States and these European countries are the ones actually conducting the attacks, and try and correlate that to a direct action of war. That, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. But the bigger thing, more so, is that Putin, for one of the first times ever, actually made the threat directly, and seems to have tried to either create or stage this press release of a sort, so that way this threat could go out and start to circulate around the world. It's fairly interesting because usually, and I know a lot of people are very used to hearing threats from the Russians, and that is true. The Russians have made an endless amount of threats in the war, and all of them have been absolutely nothing in value because every single one of those red lines has been crossed and the Russians have done nothing. But this is the first time that we've ever seen the Russians, through Putin himself, actually lay out the red line directly for the public to hear. And this is leading us to believe that maybe there may be a little bit more involved with this. And Matthew, I'm understanding that you may have thrown up a question about this, and a lot of people have weighed in on it, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, so the poll that's currently running is not on this exact question, but it does pertain to the topic. And the question says, the U.S. says it might let Ukraine strike long range into Russia, but not with U.S. weapons. That's a huge distinction. And what are your thoughts? 52% said that would be good, let Ukraine have it, while 21% said the USA's out of line on this one, and 20% said it's pointless because Ukraine needs to be able to use the long range U.S. weapons and not necessarily all the other ones. And on this one, I'll be perfectly honest with you. The USA is out of line, big league with this one, because who are we to tell, like, for example, Britain, they can or can't let Ukraine use a weapon of their own? That seems insane to me. I'm not sure why the USA thinks we're able to tell other countries what they can and can't do. We don't have that authority, but we seem to be sort of like putting ourselves out there like that. If Britain wants to let Ukraine use something long range into Russia, that is their prerogative, wholly their prerogative. But the USA came out today and said they're debating whether or not they might let Britain have the permission to let Ukraine use it, which is crazy. So I'm actually with the 21%. It would be good if they could use a Storm Shadow, but I think the USA is out of line. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that the United States is certainly out of line, approving Ukraine to use other countries' weapons that were given and produced entirely by a different country. Britain and France produce and use the Storm Shadow and Scalp EG missiles. They're the same missile but under a different name and have slightly different, at least motors inside of the missiles themselves, but largely are pretty much the same. The fact that the United States is coming in and saying, well, Britain might give you permission, but we will have to have the final say, that is certainly crossing the line. That is not an American weapon. The United States does not have a right to be able to tell a completely third-party country, which is Ukraine, that they cannot use a third-party country's other weapon system that had absolutely nothing to do with the United States in the first place. That is a complete crossing of the line, in my opinion, on the kind of level that the United States can get involved in things around the world. This is completely outside of America's control on every single aspect. This is a situation in between Ukraine and the UK. If the UK wants to give authorization for their weapons to be used in Russia, and they tell Ukraine that they can do that, the United States does not exist anywhere in the middle of that correspondence to be able to step in and go, no, actually, I have to give the authorization. There is no such thing as that. That is absolutely crazy that that would even be insisted. And also, it's even crazier because for the past few days, that has been posed, because we've gotten a much clearer picture of what America's meaning, that has been posed as America might actually give authorization for our missiles to be used deep inside of Russia. Now we find out that that was never the case. It was the case that America might give authorization for Ukraine to use other people's weapons deep inside of Russia, which is absolutely insane. Like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. America doesn't have a right to be able to tell the British or the Ukrainians what Ukraine can do with British-made and British-used missiles. That those aren't our missiles.
Do you think they did that to save face? Do you think they did that to save face? Because now that Russia, specifically Putin, has come out and made this very bold statement about he's going to go to war with NATO if the long-range weapons are used in his territory, do you think that maybe Blinken actually went over there with the intention to give Ukraine permission to use our long-range weapons, but then the Department of State heard this statement, and they're like, oh my God, we're going to have to back out of this because now we're scared, and we're going to pretend like we were never going to give permission, and we were simply giving permission to our allies to give the Storm Shadow, because this makes no sense whatsoever. I don't think the U.S. is this blind and out of touch to think that we can actually dictate to other countries like Britain whether or not they can let the Storm Shadow be used by a foreign country. That seems so out of touch with reality. It's almost hard to believe that's a real statement coming out of the Department of State. So I don't know. What do you think?
It's absolutely out of touch. Like for example, let me put this out there. When Britain said originally, we're going to give Ukraine tanks, you never saw America go, actually, As the arbiter of weapons provisions to Ukraine, we will have the final say on whether those challengers will go to Ukraine. Britain said we're going to give them challengers, and then it took us a couple of months to finally say, okay, we'll give some Abrams. And then we did that. We've done the same thing with everything. We've always been behind the curb, and we've never stepped up and acted like we had to make the final say on other people's weapon systems arriving in Ukraine and being used by the Ukrainians in any way, shape, or form. Because when the British said, here you go, here's the Storm Shadow, you can use this anywhere and on anything, including to strike the Russian Navy inside of Sevastopol. And then the Ukrainians actually ended up using a few of them to strike the Russian Navy in Sevastopol and ended up completely destroying, for the large part, the Minsk Rapucha class landing ship and the Rostov-on-Don Kilo class submarine while they were in dry dock in the port. They used Storm Shadows to destroy both of those vessels. You didn't hear America go, up, 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 up. That might be a little bit too escalatory. Let me be the one to actually approve this. That is insanity. I don't know what happened with that, and maybe the United States is getting scared again. It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that America's getting scared of further escalation, because that's generally the running norm these days, is that America's scared of escalation anywhere for any reason. But that probably is the case, in my opinion. So I'd have to largely agree with you. I think they had a plan of authorizing, but now Putin has thrown around a little threat. The United States is scared of escalating, so now we're like, oh, we have to back off. We can't approve anything, and we can't even allow our allies to give anything and let Ukraine use it like that. That is crazy.
It certainly seems like it, because, we had heard very credible reports coming out of the background that Blinken was over there with the intention to let Ukraine have that permission. And we saw the beginning of the Storm Shadow. We saw Britain start indicating that was a reality. And then we were expecting to hear from the State Department that all of a sudden Ukraine would have that ability. But now we're seeing a complete reversal, and almost like a statement of plausible deniability, that they were actually there to only give maybe a foreign country like Britain permission, which is just wild to me. So apparently, from what I understand, if this is an accurate statement from the Department of State, there is no permission being given by the U.S. to fire missiles along range into Russia that the U.S. manufactures. That is apparently completely off the table at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's really bizarre to me. And also, I saw someone say, as long as they continue under the current NATO treaty, America does have the right to say who can give what weapons to who and where. No, we don't. That there is no such thing, I believe, in the entire NATO charter, and we will go pull up the NATO charter and read the whole thing that has any kind of provision where it says America is in charge of your arms industry and who you can export to. I don't think there is a single thing in the charter like that exists. So let me see here. Let's see here. Okay, so the NATO charter is only 14 articles long, the actual treaty that was ratified in Washington, D.C. on the 4th of April, 1949. So let's see. To settle any international dispute by peaceful means, international peace and security. So Article 1 is about how they try and settle disputes. Article 2 is trying to improve international relations. Article 3 is talking about how they can try and achieve the objectives of the treaty. Article 4 is about who in the world will anyone go to deal with any qualms that come up because someone's been attacked possibly, and what to do about that. Article 5, as everyone knows, talks about actually invoking a response by NATO in the defense of the entire alliance. Article 6 lays out the specific geographical parameters of where such an attack can happen that could invoke Article 5 under what is laid out in Article 4. Article 7 speaks of here we go. The treaty does not affect and shall not be interpreted as affecting in any way the rights and obligations under the Charter of the Parties, which are members of the United Nations, or the primary responsibility of the Security Council for maintenance of international peace and security. So that is laying out that this can't really conflict with the United Nations and their perceived supreme being and rule, although they're pretty much useless. Moving on from that and into Article 8. Let's see. Each party declares that none of the international engagements now in force between it and any other parties or any third state is in conflict with the provisions of this treaty and undertakes not to enter into any international engagement in conflict with this treaty. So this appears to be maybe the article that gets the closest to saying that. But once again, it seems as though that it's saying that you can't go out and start a war, and no one in NATO is starting a war. They are providing arms and supporting a country that is currently involved in the war, and they are staying out of it. So this would not really apply, at least in my opinion, because it says that none of the international engagements now enforced between it and any other of the parties or any third state is in conflict with the provisions of this treaty, which so far nothing that anyone is doing, like Britain approving the use of a storm shadow, is in violation or in conflict with any part of this treaty so far. It is not getting them directly involved in the war. It is not saying that Britain and Poland were going to join the war on the side of Ukraine. All Britain is doing is saying a weapon we've given a third-party country can be used in this manner now, and that has absolutely no saying in what the Americans can say or do about that. That's not America's responsibility or role to be able to say anything about that, because America does have a lot of sway over the Western world. We are the leader of the Western world, so with that comes a lot of privileges on what we can and can't do that other countries wouldn't be able to do. But this isn't one of them, is being able to tell Britain, we will give the final say on where you can send your weapons. Because if that was the case, then we would see that Turkey would be told, well, you can't invade Syria with your own army and end up crushing the Syrian Democratic Forces in the northern part of Syria, you idiot. That goes against our interests. That's getting involved in a totally different war. And guess what? Turkey did that, and not only did we not even make that big of a problem about it, we've done nothing about it. So that's largely disproving the claim that America can just come in and go, whoa, you can't do that, and pretty much tell anyone and everyone what they can do militarily in the alliance, because Turkey has done whatever the hell they wanted to over the past 20 to 30 years, and we have never come in and actually been able to enforce anything on them where we say, well, you can't do that, and they stop doing it. And we haven't had any NATO articles in the charter that have allowed us to do that either. So going off of that, that would be untrue. America does not have a position to be able to tell the United Kingdom what it can and cannot authorize with its own weapons that have been produced by the United Kingdom and provided to Ukraine by the United Kingdom, not by the United States. So with that, I hope that does cover that fairly well, at least reading the charter. And once again, I have to remind everyone, there's not a lot to the NATO charter. It's not like I'm missing something here. The NATO charter is only 14 articles long. It's not an incredibly big charter. And so if it's not in those 14 articles, it's not like it's in some magic hoopla somewhere else. It's either in that charter or it isn't, and it is not in that charter. And so with that, I hope that addresses that fairly well, at least on that side. But that once again circles us around back to the issue of, is Putin really bluffing about this, or is he legitimately serious with this threat that was issued today? And a lot of people have been weighing in on this, and it seems like everyone is in the same idea, in the same camp, that Putin is probably bluffing as usual, and there probably will be no repercussions or larger problems that result if Britain was to authorize the use of storm shadows, and if America was to authorize the use of ATACMS deep inside of Russia. So, Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so on the topic of Putin's most recent threats to go to direct war with NATO if long-range weapons are granted for use by Ukraine, about 70% said Putin is bluffing like usual with his recent threats, 14% said Putin seems serious this time, and 12% said it seems ominous, but I need more info or intel. And I'll be honest with you on this one. Like, I'm inclined to believe that Putin is once again bluffing, but the way he came out this time, I know some people are going to like roll their eyes at that and think, oh, well, he always comes out and says something a different way every time. And that is true. But I just have a down deep gut feeling, and that's not very scientific, but I have a down deep gut feeling that this time it might be a little bit different than the last time. Putin specifically came out to meet with the press. He wanted this meeting. He didn't just like happen to run across the press and make an offhand threat like that. He specifically came out to make that threat. It was very direct. It was not beating around the bush whatsoever. And if he were to back off of that threat, which is certainly possible, he might not actually follow through with it, but if he were to back off with it, that would destroy any shred of credibility Putin might have had left with any part of the world, in my opinion. So I'm not saying that he's ready to go to direct war with NATO, but it seems a little bit ominous, and we probably shouldn't dismiss this right off the bat, but he could, of course, be bluffing like usual. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say, I don't believe him at all because you're saying that he has some kind of a tiny shred of credibility left. I think he's destroyed that almost over almost nearly 3 years of war. He has said everything under the sun, or he's had other people come out and say everything under the sun to threaten that if we provide F-16s to Ukraine, then that means that we're directly in the war now. The NATO countries are directly fighting Russia, and we are going to obliterate the West and kill everyone in it. And then we provided F-16s. They flew across the border into Ukraine, and then nothing happened. And then another time that something else was very interesting that did not happen was when we initially said we're going to provide tanks to Ukraine. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If you provide tanks to Ukraine, that's going to be a direct involvement of the West because Western weapons will be firing at the Russians. There's no other way that these tanks can be used unless there's some sort of direct involvement by NATO. We're going to go to war with everyone. We're going to kill them. And then the tanks arrived, and then nothing happened. And then another time, a better time even, was when Britain said, we're going to take Ukrainian troops out of Ukraine and bring them to Britain. We're going to train them here and then send them back. And then Russia said, whoa, 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 wait a minute, hold up. You're going to turn them into foreign operators? This may as well just be NATO coming in and fighting us at this point. This is going to be direct involvement by NATO. We're going to kill these people. We're going to level the West. And they've done that multiple times over and over and over, pretty much directly threatening outright war. Hell, they've even directly threatened outright war over sanctions. Just different kinds of sanctions. They've gone, this is tantamount to war. We're going to war at this point with NATO. And then they don't do anything on that. I would say that they don't really have a shred of credibility left to work off of, and they're largely just once again throwing out the same old hoopla. I think this time, though, Putin decided to come out and say that publicly, probably to create the stir that's been created about it, so that we'll be brought up a little bit more than just some lackey being told to go out there and say the threat. He was going to say it and hope that that would make things a little bit more serious sounding, at least in the long run, or at least with how people would interpret it in the public. But I would say, in my opinion, I think he really is bluffing as usual. It's just that he came out and said it this time rather than anyone else.
And also, by the way, when I say like Putin losing credibility, I obviously do not mean with the West. He has zero credibility with the West at this point. I mean with his own allies, like for example, China, Iran, North Korea. He does have some street cred with those guys over there. And in my opinion, making these bold-faced lies, if this is indeed a lie, and he's just bluffing completely, and then he were to actually have that red line crossed, and then he weren't followed through with that threat, that would destroy any shred of respect I think he would have with his current allies, because they're looking to see what he's doing as well. And they're all sort of like sharks. They're all floating around each other, waiting for a moment to bite each other. And if he were to do that and show weakness, he might be in some trouble. So I'm not really sure. And by the way, I just want to say this. I'm not saying that this threat is 100% accurate, real, and credible. Putin has threatened a lot of things in the past, and he has not followed through on them. And this probably is another one, but we shouldn't dismiss it right off the bat. We should look for more signs to see if maybe this might be a real threat. But, you know, I'm sort of leaning toward the side it is a bluff, but I'm not just going to dismiss it right off the bat.
I would largely have to say there's a little bit of a thing that has to be beaten around here to figure out if this is a legitimate one or not, but I'd largely be going into it with the concept this is another red line like every red line, and it probably can be easily crossed and nothing would happen, because this is largely what they're hoping, is that people will actually take it legitimately this time because Putin said it to the public. But the reality is that it doesn't matter if Putin said it to the public, it doesn't matter if Peskov came out and said it to the public, it really means the same thing every time, because it's not being made on an official diplomatic channel. It's really just for the world to hear, and it probably was intended that this time the threat would be taken more seriously just for the fact that Putin came out and said it. Because a lot of people don't know, like you know, like many of you all know, and me and Matthew know, that a government doesn't just work because the big man comes out and says something. You don't see the president of the United States and the president of Russia actually sit out and hash things out, or get the president of Ukraine and Russia together in a room and have them sorted out. It's always done through intermediaries from both sides, governments that are sent out and told what to say and told what's acceptable and unacceptable in some sort of a resolution, and then it goes from there. So we know that these kinds of statements, whenever they're being made on a press release, are made specifically for the public's benefit. They're never made for an official diplomatic measure. And so going off of that, I would say that once again, this is just trying to reinforce the idea this red line is a legitimate red line, unlike every other red line, which has been violated and nothing has happened so far.
Maybe so. We'll have to see. I think only time's going to tell with this one, but I'm sort of on the fence with it still, to be honest.
Perhaps so. Perhaps so. We will have to wait and see how it actually ends up turning out. But we may never know. We might not even have to see how it turns out because America just goes, "Oh, we don't give them permission," and then we try and strong arm the British into not giving the permission, and we don't give the permission, and then we might never find out. But still,
Real quick, can you show that Twitter post? You know, the one I showed you earlier with the photo on it. Can you show that one real quick? It's the second Twitter post on the profile page. This was during his press conference today, by the way. This is a pretty good one.
oh my goodness, man.
Oh yeah.
Yikes.
Oh yeah. There we go. When the lies are so bad, even your own face starts to cringe. Jeez, that's bad.
You know what he looks like right there, man? He looks like that Heavy Bubbles commercial where you know the one I'm talking about, where that big guy was like with the water and he was like introducing Heavy Bubbles. And he was like, and then someone said, "What if I want to buy other stuff?" And he said, "Don't buy other stuff." You know, like that commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
He looks like that guy. Like, let me go pull him up really quickly. Heavy Bubbles meme. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, come on. There's got to be that specific picture of you'll die or something like that. You've got to be kidding me. Hold up. I got to go find the Heavy Bubbles video because I'm not going to let this one go. I got to get this one. Heavy Bubbles. So here we go. Heavy Bubbles. Here we go. Found it. All right. We're going to mute it because we only need the one part. All right. Like, we don't need the whole thing. We just need one piece. And so let me go grab it. Here we go. All right. So here it is. This is the part I'm talking about. So remember Putin's face right there. All right. I'm going to show you all this. Oh, wait. Oh, dang it, man. Hold it. Dang it. It showed it. Hang on. Let me play it. So here we go.
What if I can carry it?
If you can't carry, you can't drink.
That right there, that's what he looks like. He looks like that. Look.
It kind of does, man. It looks like he's having a stroke, really, or something. Like he's just totally lost it. Is he turning into Medvedev? Like he could be drinking or something like that. But for this like face to look like this, he might be slowly morphing into Medvedev. He's even adopting his statements and coming out and threatening war.
Yeah, you know, I don't know, man. Maybe he is turning into Medvedev. I think the booze might be getting to him. I think he's finally succumbed to the plague of many Russians, the heavy bubbles. And it's not the water. It's the vodka, man. They're getting into the heavy bubble. But still, with that, I hope that does address that the best we can, at least with the whole Putin side of things that's going on today. But before we move on into the rest of the news that we have for tonight, and there's still a lot of it out there, not just in Ukraine, but also out in the area of Crimea, Mariupol, and also the Black Sea, we have to address a couple of questions because we've gotten several of them. And so, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so our first super chat of the night is going to go to Just Chillin', who threw in the largest one of the night, a $100 donation. Very, very generous support. Thank you very much, Just Chillin', for that support. And also, while I'm reading off your super chat here, I'm trying to get rid of one bot who's calling us CIA agents. We're not getting our check, and we're not a part of them. But anyways, Just Chillin' says, enjoy your vacation, and you can take one from the chat.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel keep on running, just chilling. And I guess that when we're on our vacation, we're gonna be just chilling. That's a pretty good one. But still, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much for wanting us to enjoy our vacation because it is only a few days away now. I mean, it's 2 days away. We are not going to be running streams, folks. Just to let y'all know again, from September 14th to the 18th. There may not be a stream running on the 19th, but we are guaranteed to be back on air on the 20th of September. But we will be running this stream tonight and tomorrow night's stream, but tomorrow night's stream is going to be the last one before we take off for our vacation. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I got to thank you so much once again for supporting this channel, Just Chillin', and really wishing us the best on this vacation. It's the first one we've had in 4 years, and we are absolutely floored to go on this thing. And so thank you so much once again for support, and we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor, Just Chillin'. But before we move on from this, I want everyone to remember, we will not be running streams from September 14th to the 18th. If you come here on the 14th of September and you're like, where is the stream? The streams will not be running that day, and they won't be running until the 19th, most likely. And so with that, Matthew, what do we got for a live chat?
All right, so the live chat question is going to go to Jason John. He says, what is the status of Belarus right now? And he said, are they still keeping their distance from Putin?
From what we know, as far as the situation is concerned with Belarus, we have not heard of them trying to conduct any offensives into northern Ukraine. So it does appear that that information was accurate. The Belarusians actually had no intentions of trying to invade northern Ukraine. From what we know at the moment, the situation is fairly idle. The Belarusians are really doing nothing, and they're just kind of sitting around and, I don't know, really just waiting for the end of time, I guess, in Belarus. I don't really know what they do as far as their government, because it's not really like there's a lot going on with Belarus, or for Belarus for that matter. So I guess they're just sitting around and waiting for something, maybe. But with that, I hope that does address that at least the best I can on what's happening in the Belarusian government, because I don't think they do anything. I think they play like ping pong or something like that until something comes up, and something comes up every like 3 years or so. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. Big shout out once again for the support, just chilling and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Fachada, who puts in a $50 donation. Also massive support, and thank you very much, Fachada, for that massive support. And they put in a super sticker, no comment, but a super sticker of the Doge, saying, "You're amazing," with the on fire sparklers. Russians would love to have those. They could set everything on fire. But thank you very much, Fachada, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
Man, with those sparklers, man, the Russians be sitting there and they go, "Oh, that," and then you hear, you know, like that song, you know, and then you just see everything catching on fire. Like, it's like, that's what the Russians are doing. But still, huge thank you for the support, Fachada, and helping this channel to keep on running. You didn't throw in a comment. Well, the support is big, and it helps us to keep this channel rolling. And if it wasn't for folks like you who have been here since the dawn of time on this channel, we wouldn't have been able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't have been able to get to this point. And I got to thank you so much once again for supporting this channel tonight, because if it was not for folks like you, the very few that decided this channel was worthwhile to support and help it to keep on running, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible for so many people. And so a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And thank you for enjoying this channel once again tonight. And so with that, we are now on to the last question of this segment before we move on into the long-lasting news segment. And so
I was about to do it. Damn, you stole it.
Yes!
But anyways, the last one here, the last question is going to go to K-Dub Janky, who put in a very generous $50 donation as well. And thank you very much, K-Dub, for always supporting the channel as well. And that they said after Columbus and Vasco da Gama opened up western and eastern sea trade, European colonial power was born. And why were the English the most successful in this when the Portuguese, Spanish, Dutch, and French were all in the game?
Well, interestingly enough, K-Dub Janky, the colonial period is actually divided up into several different eras, because the beginning of the colonial period, or the age of exploration as some people call it, because not only was it largely a period of colonization around the world by many major European powers, it was also the time that Europe was starting to explore most of the world and was finally figuring out that other continents existed that no one else knew about. Also, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, a lot of people were like, age of exploration, but there were already people living there. It's like, no one in Asia and no one in Europe knew that North and South America, Australia for that matter, none of that, no one knew that these places even existed, like, at all. Like, this was all new for everyone. So while there were people there, no one knew that there were people there inside of Europe, Asia, or anywhere else. But so that's why it's called the Age of Exploration. But beyond that, and also was called the Age of Exploration because then everyone in North America, South America, Australia, and other places started to find out, oh crap, there are other people out there elsewhere in the world, and they're here now. So that was kind of a little bit new for everyone. Kind of a bit of a pleasant and unpleasant surprise, depending on what side you were on. But beyond that, to answer that question, the beginning of the colonial period, if we want to call it that, was actually dominated largely by the Spanish. The Spanish were really the biggest, at least in terms. Dang, thank you so much for the support outdoors. That's massive, and we will get to that here in a little bit, but. As far as the Spanish one, the Spanish were the most successful through the 1500s and on into the mid-1600s. Britain actually was hardly in the colonial game by this point. They got into the colonial game about the very early 1600s. France had already been in it a pretty good bit. Spain was the dominant force in Europe and also around the world at this point as far as colonization goes. And a lot of people don't know this as well, but the Philippines were actually colonized by the Spanish. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people kind of don't really know much about the history of the Philippines, but for an incredibly long time, they were actually controlled by the Spanish. And that's why, if you ever see a Filipino person, they largely look very different than anyone around, like Indonesians, Vietnamese, Taiwanese, or Chinese people, is because there was a heavy amount of Spanish influence for hundreds of years over the Philippines, and that actually had a great deal in changing the culture of the Philippines, and not only the culture, the language, because the Philippines actually speaks largely Spanish or English. And also, another interesting thing about the Philippines, it being largely Spanish controlled for hundreds of years, is that they have a Spanish style architecture that largely dominates in the Philippines, which is completely different than any of the surrounding countries. In Vietnam, you would largely find, although this isn't really that heavy, it wasn't that heavily influenced compared to the Philippines, some French architecture, as Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia were all a part of French Indochina, but French Indochina didn't last as long as Spanish control over the Philippines. And then the United States took the Philippines from Spain and then made it a U.S. territory from I believe it was 1898, all the way up until 1945 at the end of World War II, when the Philippines became an independent nation for really the first time in history. So it's a pretty interesting one. Also, I saw someone say Tagalog is the Filipino language. But let me check this. Let's see. How many... let's see, language, let's pull that up. Language demographics in the Philippines. And so let me get this in the Philippines. And so there we go. And we should be getting this. And so let's see here. Let me make sure that I can get the correct percentages here. And so let's see here. Let's see, hang on. I gotta go try and find the percentages here. So... apparently I am wrong on that, because from what I'm... Oh, wait, hang on, I'm sorry, that's the native languages graph. I was like, why the hell is English not on there? Because a lot of Filipino people do speak English. Let me see if I can actually find a good graph on this that includes every language that's in the Philippines. So, let me see here. Is there one? So, it looks like I got an infographic here. And so, let's see here. Where is... so once again, this is not including Spanish or English. And so let me see here. So here we go. This is at least the top language statistics by percentage on social media that's used in the Philippines. So this may be our closest metric here. So 52% of the population uses English on their social media platforms, largely denoting that they probably have a high proficiency in English rather than any other language. 35.3% of the population use Tagalog, which I believe I'm mispronouncing according to some people. And let me see, what is Tagalog? Because Spanish actually makes up almost no percentage, which is weird because I was told that it had a really high percentage because of the Spanish control of the Philippines for a very long time. Let's see. It's popular, been influenced. So Tagalog has been influenced by Spanish and English. So it's kind of like a native / English Spanish mix that makes up the language of the Philippines. So this could be attributed as a high amount of Spanish influence is this completely independent language called Tagalog, which I still think I'm mispronouncing. If I am, sorry about that. Apparently it's like Tagala, not Tagalog. So there we go. But beyond that, it does seem as though, now that we've gotten to the bottom of what Tagalog is, it does seem that it has a pretty decent amount of Spanish influence on it. So once again, showing the Spanish influence. But beyond that, Britain started to dominate towards the later end of the colonial period, largely because they had a very interesting model of doing it. Unlike other countries like Spain, that use the encomienda system, which is a very incredibly interesting system in its own right. I'll try and explain it here really quickly in like a small rabbit hole. The encomienda system is a special kind of a Spanish colonial system that meant that anything would go. Like, you could do anything in a place like New Spain, which is what modern-day Mexico is, as long as you were making sure to return the the taxes that you were pretty much required back to Spain. And that means that you could enslave anyone and anyone that you needed to be able to force enough labor to produce enough goods to send back to Spain so that way you could keep control of that area. That's actually why a lot of South American countries that are formerly Spanish controlled, which pretty much includes Mexico, all of Central America, and everything on the western side of South America, you will see that they largely have unstable governments that exist kind of like a dictatorship, because they don't have a proper kind of a democratic system. For hundreds of years, it worked under an exploitative encomienda system, and it didn't matter the condition of life in these countries. It just mattered that the ruling power was meeting the minimum necessities required to return stuff back to Spain. The British worked on a different system where they would actually give corporations, pretty much companies, the responsibility of going out and producing a successful colony that would make them money. It would make the people in the colony money, but it would also make the crown, or the British government, money as well. So that's largely why they ended up being a lot more successful, is because they worked off of a corporation system which largely benefited everyone in the process, instead of the encomienda system, which only really benefited the region governor and also the crown in Spain. So that's largely why there's a bit of a difference on why, at the end of it all, Britain was by far the most successful colonial power in the world, while many of the others, like Spain and Portugal, had almost completely fallen off by that point. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least on a very, very short, like, historic analysis, because that's actually a very deep rabbit hole to get into that you can make like a 2-hour-long video on, and I would love to make a 2-hour-long video on it, but I hope that that does kind of cover that the best I can in the shortest amount of time. But still, a huge thanks to you once again, and for helping this channel to keep on running and making this thing possible, because if it wasn't for folks like you, K-Dub-Shanky, we wouldn't be able to go down incredibly cool and interesting and historic rabbit holes like that here and there. And so with that, huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are now moving on into our actual Ukraine war news inside of Ukraine. And do we have an insane amount of location unknowns today? We're going to be starting off with our first one, showing some Ukrainian Mi-24s conducting some low-level maneuvers with the landing gear out, which is actually an interesting move. And
interesting paint scheme, too, on the side. I don't know what that was on the front. It looked like some weird markings or something.
it was flowers. It was flowers. Nice, beautiful
Oh,
flowers.
blядь.
It's kind of just like driving around nearly. It doesn't even look like it's actually like flying or anything.
Kind of weird.
And Rob DC said, have you ever seen death? Yeah, like 4 times in real life. Like, you know, yeah. Like, just because I'm 22 doesn't mean that I haven't seen dead people in real life. I don't really know what that actually has to do with anything, though. It's like, that's a little stupid to say that to talk about war, you must see dead people in real life. It's like, does that really matter? Like, it's, I don't know. I feel like it doesn't matter to me. But beyond that, very interesting point. Good hill to die on, I suppose, because the guy got banned. But anyways, we also got to see, for the first time ever, what it actually looks like when a Ukrainian drone hits a Russian drone in an interception. It was filmed from another drone. There's the Russian drone down there. The Ukrainian drone slams it, bam, and it takes it down right there on the spot. Pretty interesting, pretty cool, actually, and good to see. And moving on from that, we also got to see the Ukrainian ammo production is finally starting up again. What you're looking at here is pretty standard fare for most people that shoot any kind of guns here in America. These are 5.56 rounds, fairly normal, and they look just like an M198 or any other kind of round that one would get, like an M558, without the little green painted tip on the front of them. But beyond that, it's just...
sure about that? Are you sure it's a 5.56 round?
Yeah, man, do you think I'm stupid? Like, hell, it's on the box right there. Look at that. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my God, it's 5.45 by 39. Wait, I am stupid.
Now, let me ask you something,
I am
Mr. Gun Expert. Let me ask you something. I could tell this was different. The neck of the, like the part where the bullet goes into the casing was a little bit too elongated for a 5.56. I was thinking that could not be, because I use a ton of 5.56. That's the main round I've ever shot is that one. So this one could not be it. So I caught this one. I caught it, man. Give me my credit.
Yeah, you did catch it, man. And I must be like freaking stupid because I use 5.45 by 39. I don't know what this looks like compared to 5.56. So on that note, folks, I'm actually resigning from my position as
hey.
But beyond that, this is apparently 545 by 39. When I read the box earlier, I swore that it said 556 by 45, and then I just went, oh, whatever. But it's actually 30 rounds of 545 by 39 that is actually brass cased, which is fairly interesting because most of it historically, like the 7.6 round, was actually steel cased. So I think that's also what threw me off as well, because usually, and let me show y'all this because now y'all will see maybe where I'm coming from here. 545. Let me see if I can show y'all a picture of 7.6 rounds, because this is usually what I'm dealing with when I use 545. It looks like this. It has this lacquered coated steel cased cartridge, and the bullet is of course coated in copper. But beyond that, it has a mild steel penetrator inside of the bullet. You can't see that from the outside. But looking at this, this is what I always know 545 to look like. It looks like this every single day of the week. So whenever I see anything that's brass cased, which is usually something that we do here in the West, which makes it look entirely different, and it makes it look just like this ends up looking a lot like 556 by 45 at a quick glance. And let me go show that.
Also, by the way, that is some super clean ammo, by the way. Those casings are like perfectly clean, and the bullets are too. Like by the way, it's not 556, but my 556 ammo is much dirtier than that. Like, in fact, it's almost like the crap ammo, I think, because these are like 10 times cleaner than the bullets I've got.
Yeah, I would say they really are clean, man. The crap you get from well, the crap I got from Remington one time, dude, it's like they don't even wash it. It's like it's crapped out of the back of a chicken or something, and then they package it. Like, I don't know why it's that nasty. But beyond that, this is why, for some reason, I thought that it was 556, is because of the brass casings. Because if you look at a 556 round like this one here in the picture, once again, brass casing. And while the actual bullet itself is incredibly small compared to 545, 545s are fairly long, I think that's what in my head made me think, oh, 556, and I didn't think otherwise, because that's usually what I'm used to seeing. But beyond that, it is 545. It is not 556, and I got that completely wrong, and I will own that mistake right here and right now. That is a pretty big mess up, because the two are actually very similar, at least in size, like when you actually see them, like, and hold them in your hand, but they're very, very different, because one's used for the AK-74, the other one's used for really every AR platform ever made. But beyond that, well, you can see the packaging here. It's apparently full metal jacket. Pretty cool. I don't know if it has anything special to it, but we can also see right here the manufacturer, and apparently a lot number, I'm assuming, that's on the bottom of the round, but we can see them again right here. They look really good, and apparently limited ammo manufacturing is now once again popping up inside of Ukraine, specifically for the military, so that way they can try and keep their nation fueled with small arms ammo to keep the infantry going. So pretty.
For sure, I got a redemption question for you. It says FMJ, Full Metal Jacket. What's the BT stand for? Do you know?
Boat tail.
Yep, there you go. Redeemed.
Man, redeemed, of course. Like, I have to be redeemed because also, man, I bet you don't know this. What is it called, the specific shape of this bullet on the front of it?
The shape of the bullet on the front, like the actual bullet itself, or
yeah,
the casing?
like the pointy area on the front of the bullet. What is that called?
I'll be honest with you, I don't have the slightest idea.
Let me see here. Let me make sure. Here we go. The Spitzer bullet. And let me show this right here. This is what every single bullet in the modern day is, because beforehand, because you're actually looking, I believe, at the same round right here, this is the original kinds of rounds that would be used in rifles, and it had a rounded nose on it. But then some guy came along called Spitzer, and he ended up designing the bullet with a much more aerodynamic shape, which had this very tapered point that it came to at the front, and that's actually what's called the Spitzer bullet. And so every single bullet in the modern day is designed off of the Spitzer concept. And so it's the Spitzer design to a bullet, but then it has a boat tail, which means that the rear of the bullet tapers. And let me see if I can show boat tail bullet. And because it's interesting to see what a boat tail looks like, because you don't actually ever see this. Because this is a boat tail on the right side right here and a flat base on the left side. The boat tail tapers off at the rear of the bullet, which allows it a better ballistic coefficient, I believe, because it's a little bit more aerodynamic, and it kind of just like glides through the air instead of displacing the air around it, making it a little bit more stable over longer distances.
Interesting. I actually did not know that about the difference between boat tail. All my 300 ammo is boat tail, I think. But my 5.56, I think, might be flat base, but I'm not really sure. But yeah, I think so.
And so, with that, I hope we addressed that well. I hope I redeemed myself a little bit there because I really sounded like an idiot insisting that it was 5.56 when it's 5.45. So hopefully I redeemed myself with a little bit of ammo knowledge, or at least bullet knowledge for to a point. But anyways, moving on from that little bit of location unknown, we also got to see Ukrainian hawk decoys. And these don't look like birds. These look like hawks. And these are actually hawk decoys that they made, probably for the Russians to try and blow up later. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll see them actually try and hit those for later on. We also got to see a Leopard 2 in training in the Donetsk region with the Ukrainians. Check that out. They're doing some river wading, like some really severe river wading, actually. And we can see that it has the Contact 1 ERA on the side. And we can also see a Bergpanzer right here, an M788 recovery vehicle in that last picture. Or actually an M88 Hercules. I'm getting everything wrong tonight. I'm so sorry, everyone. I don't know what's up with that. But moving on from that, we also got to see Russian air defense in full effect. Check this out. This is a Russian air defense at its finest.
Oh no.
Bleed.
There's the air defense, the guys.
Yeah, the guys.
Oh god. Man, it's like a ragtag group of just lunatics running around.
Man, this is just a normal day out in Chicago, right?
Why are they jumping around like that?
I don't know. What's this guy doing? Did he just come off the beach or something? He's got like swim trunks on and nothing else.
You're not expendable, Rambo. Why are they even shooting it? I still don't see it.
I don't see it yet either.
Do you think they're like seeing crap?
Probably not.
It's the Pervitin.
It's the meth.
I don't see jack crap out here.
Me either, but they are absolutely laying down heat on whatever it is that they're seeing. Oh, I think it was a drone because it just blew up out there.
They unloaded the whole, like, season's ammunition for that one.
Yeah, and it missed it. It hit its target. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But once again, Russian air defense hard at work. Meanwhile, we also got the casualty report, which sadly was not published by the Kyiv Independent today. So I actually had to get this from another source. But holy moly, only 2 Bobcat skid steers, Matthew. That's it.
Only 2? Man, what the hell? Only 2 Bobcats. Also, this is like, is this all in Ukrainian or am I seeing things?
This is in Ukrainian and English.
Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
okay, I see it. 2 special equipment. I love to see it, man. I'm telling you what. We don't even have the bots in the comment section anymore, but I love to see it.
Man, we love to see it as 1,270 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 11 tanks, 17 APCs, 73 artillery pieces, pretty impressive number, 2 MLRSs, 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, 1 Su-30, 43 drones, 93 supply trucks, and of course, last but not least, the 2 Bobcat skid steers. The day was well, and it's getting only better. Moving on over out of our location unknowns and on into the area of Vovchansk, we did get to see the Russians shelling a road deeper inside the Kharkiv Oblast. Here's the clip. Was that a Cybertruck?
Really?
Dude, I think that's a Cybertruck, man. No lie. I actually...
No way.
Hold up. Dang it, it keeps on doing that crap. I cannot tell, but the back of it is like polygonal shape.
It looks like it, man. It really does. It has the same silhouette of a Cybertruck. There's no way that can be, though. That has to be an illusion or something. because but I tell you, it looks like it has a tunnel on the back of it. You know, like the little sliding
Yeah.
ramp that goes in the back. It looks like the same roof line. Like that would be kind of wild, but I don't know, man. Like even the tail lights are in the same position up top and toward the like corners. Hell if I know. It looks close.
Looks like a Cybertruck that's been painted green.
It may be so, man. It's close.
It looks really close, man. Someone said it's a Prius. Hell no. Like, that is no Prius. That looks like it could be a Cybertruck. 100%.
What?
That's gotta be a Cybertruck. Hold up.
It looks like it.
Hold up. We gotta go pull up a Ukrainian Cybertruck. Okay, hang on. Let me see here. Okay. So the only one that pulls up when we type in Ukrainian Cybertruck is the picture of this Chechen wizard. So, like, I don't know if we will be able to find the Ukrainian Cybertruck per se, but that looks a lot like one. Let's look at the back of this thing. I don't know. It looks like the rear taillights may be off.
Oh, yeah. There's a middle light that I don't think the Cybertruck has on it that the one in the video has.
Yeah, I think that's debunked. It looked a lot like a Cybertruck, at least to me, but it looks like we're wrong. We really need to take a vacation, man. Like, we really do. But anyways, we also got to see some fighting in Vovchansk. This is some footage that we found just today that was never published before, but here's the clip. This is from earlier in the year in May. But we can see them walking around. We can see them showing the damage to Vovchansk at the beginning of the conflict. Of course, a completely different city now. It's been completely destroyed. But do y'all want some music? I mean, we could get some music. Arriba, arriba. Or something like that.
Matthew Fours in the live chat said, "Is Elon Musk in that Cybertruck?" No, not that Cybertruck. It's probably Elon Ma.
Hello, everyone. Is Elon Musk or something like that.
I think something bad happened to Elon Ma, like the guy who was doing that imitation or whatever. I think he got nabbed by like the government or something like that. I'm not sure.
The CCP?
I think he did. Like seriously, I heard about that somewhere.
Bro, the ops got him. Like the ops nabbed him. They said, "Are you really Elon Ma?" Like they're like, "You cannot be Elon Ma." Man, that would be terrible if he actually got nabbed by the CCP for being Elon Ma. Like, what was wrong with that? But anyways, we also got to see the Ukrainians today blowing up a car. Whoa. Look at that boiler. And they're about to blast that thing. Oh!
Oh, bliat.
Dang! That thing's roasting. Hey, Peter, that thing's roasting. But anyways, that's the end of the clip. Very nice to see they were able to get that car. And I guess they're not going to be buying a car. They're going to be burning the car. But moving on from that and over to Novotorosovka, we also got to see the Russians getting bombed by the Ukrainian Air Force. Check this out. This is real. This is real. I just want you to know that. The song wanted me to tell y'all that. Union disclaimer, this is real. I mean, you see them here filming the inner... Oh, my goodness. Oh my god, oh my, dude, they're dropping small suns on them down there.
I can imagine their retinas are probably burned straight out.
Man, they said, do you see them? No, I'm blind. The flash got me. Real trap, walk with your boys. Damn, son.
Damn, son.
Oh, he did it. He did the thing.
I actually forgot the last part of it. I'm glad you finished it. I was about to just go dead silent there after that damn son.
Damn, son.
I was like, what's the next part? He said, damn, son, damn, son, where'd you find this?
Hey, he did the thing. He did it. I love it. I love it. Only Matthew could do that properly.
I'll be here all night.
Is that a threat or something? Like, why'd you say it like that? I'll be here all night. Man, you're going to be like that person who said...
saying like for a comedian, you know, when a comedian hits a big one,
like
a big joke, you know, like they're like, I'll be here all night. Don't worry about it. I'll be here.
Or, man, when you absolutely bomb a joke and no one laughs, and then you just got to move on to the next one. It's like...
They said, all right, I'm a head out. Dude,
oh, man, I hate watching people bomb. It's so... like, you can get secondhand embarrassment just even watching it. But moving on from that and over to Novoalexandrivka, we also got to see the 28th hitting some Russians down here. And there's the artillery piece, covered up in foliage. Oh, and they got him. And oh, what's this, a Russian on a bike? The Russian on the bike is about to be sent goodnight. Uh-oh. And it looks like he ran into the side of a ditch, and he's running away now. Can't find the Russian, but we can see the bike. We see them. Oh, they got him. We didn't get to see it up close, but they got him.
Man. They don't like cyclists.
Man, they don't. I think the Ukrainians and Jeremy Clarkson have something in common. They hate cyclists. But we can see the Russian running off now. He actually made it out. And we now see them targeting the next bit of tech, which is a entire T-80 BV. Kind of a bit of a treat. Bam! Right in between the hull and where the turret meets. A pretty weak point on the tank, actually. And let's see if it starts to cook off. Well, you see it's smoking a pretty good bit. And we see the Russian crew bailing. Apparently there was some serious damage. It didn't burn down, though. We can see them hitting an MLRS right there, and then our video clip ended, fading to darkness, much like many Russians have over this war. Moving on from that, we also got to see the Omega unit on the hunt around the Severonsky Forest, and they were hunting buhankas. And
This is posh tar. Like, this is like Bayrak tar, but posh.
Great heavens, I'm going to blow up these Russian scum. Just something like that.
And also the Scooby van got the short end of the stick.
Like, Zoing Scoob, I think we're gonna get killed. Raro Raggy, Pastor! Or something like that. But anyways, moving on from that and out of that clip of the Omega unit, blasting some Russians. We're now gonna be moving on down into Shesivyak, where we got to see the Ukrainian Kutsivki group hitting some Russians with their drones. Oh, I know that song. Something like that. They all sound the same. But we can see them now hitting more Russians right here. And more Russians right here. The bang of a tank! They blew its back out. That actually came out really badly. I didn't think about that.
Do you see the name? Did you see the names like on these monitors they're using and stuff? It was like mystery. It said Bada Boom or something like that. It's like they got these off of Temu or something like that. What are the names of these brands and these monitors?
Man, well, dude, don't ask that many questions. Man, like, you're going to start uncovering how the sausage is made, and we don't want to know that. But we also got to see even more clips of them hitting Russians around Shesivyak. Bam. Bam. Put two together, what do you get? Bam, bam. Pretty impressive stuff. That's copyright, actually. But we can see them here continuing to slam more Russians. And, oh my goodness, they even added a fire and flame emoji to that one. They said, this thing's straight fire. And we can see them hitting another vehicle. Dang. Dead on the nail. Dang, man. It's a bad day to be a Russian.
I think that's every day.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I come to talk with you again. Because the battle's softly creeping. I saw the drink while I was sleeping. Or something like that. And the vision that was planted in my brain is still remain. Is cancer. It is the sounds of vodka.
Man, the sounds of vodka. Man, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of sounds that can be associated with that.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 drones, maybe more. That's the lyrics, dude. Just like, what the hell are you talking about? That's the literal lyrics.
Naked, I got a little worried.
Man, I don't know why it was the naked light. I don't know why they had to have like X-rated light out there. I mean, the like the light bulb turned on and went ooh or something like that. It's like, why does it have to? But anyways, the sounds of crocodile.
That was a good one. I was about to say that too. Man, the sounds of crocodile, man. That's, oh man, leave that to your imagination.
Oh, Briad. No, man.
Oh God, Briad, it's a crocodile.
No, man, dude, I got it. Oh, man, Briad. Or something like that. This is sounds of crocodile. But anyways, moving on from that.
Oh, this crocodile's got me so zooted, Briad.
No, man, you sit there. Oh, блядь, это что? Crocodile. All right, everyone, we're going to be cooking up a scallop. Nice and over easy. Or something like that. And you just start hitting like absolutely hype like for no reason. Well, cheetah falling out, but we're going to get the scallop cooked right. But anyways, moving on from that and over into Otriatine, we also get to see them hitting him at night. They're cooking him at night. That's new. I've never heard that one before. Bro, they bringing out the Freak Show Orchestra. Oh, sorry, it actually went to rock. At the beginning, it sounded like Freak Show Orchestra. But we can see the drone here just, you know, loitering around. It's waiting for the Russians to come on out. And, oh, the Russian tripped. Oh, he tripped. Oh, it's like a horror movie. Oh, and they got him. Unfortunate for him. Don't trip next time. But anyways, let's see. I don't think there will be a next time, but just in case if there was, number one tip, don't trip. But moving on from that and out of Otriatine, we also got to see in the area of Pokrovsk, the Russians did hit a fairly large bridge into the city. Apparently, it's the Russians have also somehow found a way to cut off the gas and water that is being pumped into the city. So we can see right here the damage that was caused by the Russians pretty significant. And right over the railroad as well, although the railroad wasn't being used at this point in the conflict. And we can see them here showing off the bridge once again. And that's the end of the clip, but still showing us a little bit of the damage around the area of Kupiansk. Moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see the Ukrainians firing a grad at the Russians. And aren't we glad that they did such a thing? But we can see the 122mm rocket making its way to victory, hopefully to land right near a Russian that is opening up a brand new can of pig snout, and hopefully stopping the offensive from making more ground, much like they have not been able to make for the past few days. Meanwhile, down in the Volodar direction, we also get to see the Russians getting hit pretty hard down here by the 68th Jaeger Brigade, and call them Jägermeister because they are absolutely sloshing these Russians. See? There they are right there. And look, we put the sniper's crosshair on him. Quick, someone hit the MLG quickscope. But anyways, I can see him getting hit.
Man, that's a huge reticle.
Recticle?
No, a reticle.
Man, you said that like so, like, technically you're like, man, that is a massive reticle. I was like, what? I was like...
I have a hard time saying that word for some reason. I can't, like, say it, like, in one fluid motion. It has to be reticle.
Reticle.
I just can't do it, man.
Man, he can't do it. Like, he can't do it, man. Oh, and they're dropping oh my goodness. Wait a minute, it's a Baba Yaga, Matthew. It's a Baba Yaga dropping anti-tank mines. Look. Any second now. There goes the anti-tank mine. Boom! And it just blows up like half the house.
Now, I know for a fact I didn't say recticle. I did not say that. Go back and rewind the tape, folks, because I didn't say that.
Go back and replay the tape. So, like, he didn't say that. I know he didn't. But anyway, so moving on from that and down to the Mariupol, we also got to see a little bit of fire and flames down here in the city of Mariupol. Check this out. Another big Ukrainian drone attack happened tonight. And there's a little fire going on out there, and it's no campfire. Someone said Andrew Tate bombs. What color is your guy? Like it sounded like that.
You see, you have to escape the Matrix, and to do that, you have to develop these large munitions.
And I like how they always make it sound like to become a millionaire, there's less steps to that than actually just waking up in the morning and getting ready to get out for the day. There's only 5 steps to being a millionaire, but there's like 20 steps I can count in the morning to get ready and get out for the day. You know, you have to wake up, turn the alarm off, walk into your bathroom, brush your teeth, get your hair rinsed, you know, comb it back. Put on deodorant. Like, there's already more than 5 steps in that, and we haven't even gotten all the way to eating breakfast yet. But for some reason, there's only 5 steps to becoming a millionaire. I call bogus on that. I'd say that that's markedly untrue.
And that guy will piss on anybody who has like a normal career, like a job that's actually respectable. He'll be like, "They're in the Matrix. They ain't got no credibility. They're stuck in their ways." It's like, dude, it's like they're not a degenerate. It's like, don't bash them. It's like they're actually working a legit job and not trying to, like, you know, make quick cash by selling courses. It's like, come on.
No, better yet, man. It's like they're living in a matrix, man. They gotta live a better lifestyle. And it's like, what do? I pimp bitches. It's like, that is not like what you're supposed to be doing. It's like, no, like that's a bad idea. Man. Oh man. And then they disguise it by making it sound like you're a Chad if you do something like that. It's like, no, you're just not being a good person. It's like, I'm sure you're making money, but it's not by moral measures, that's for sure. But anyways, you can see them here once again showing a fire and the flames burning in the city of Mariupol. Ooh, nice little blow up out there. And when you see it burning, Matthew knows that one. Matthew knows that one. That is an old joke.
Yes, that is Jaws.
That is Jaws. That is 100% confirmed. What color is your guy? Oh, man.
It's this new color called invisible. If you were rich enough, you'd know.
Dude, it's called none, because I'm not stupid enough to go buy a car that depreciates by like millions of dollars over the course of a few years. So, you know, nah. That's like, I'm good. Johannes, is it the sound of violence? It is the sounds of violence. But it's like, yeah, that kind of is, at least in Mariupol these days. I mean, they're whipping the block down here. They're blowing up entire ammunition depots, as we can see here on Telegram. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on out of Mariupol and on down and into Kherson, where we got to see that the Ukrainians ended up hitting a drone down here today. The Yokai unit ended up hitting a drone, blowing it up. And so here's the clip. Oh, dang, they're blowing these things up. Blowing up. All of our drones keep blowing up. And they sure as hell are. I mean, my goodness. That is a lot of drones.
Well, the Russians actually paint these drones. Like, some of them actually had, like designs on them.
Dude, they pimp their ride just to have it disrespected up there in the skies, man. A lot of you guys say you don't talk politics, or you do. When have we? Like, during this entire stream, when has that ever been brought up? I guess I probably just did an impersonation, a voice of someone that you like, and then it became crossing the line right there. Very unfortunate. But moving on from that, and out of that area, and down into Crimea, we also got to see that S-400 got blown up. Check this out. This is footage from the ground. This is from a Russian that was running this S-400 before it got blown up. Oh, блядь. And moving on out of that area, we also got to see the Su-30 that got shot down over the sea in the Black Sea. That's copyright, isn't it? I'll sing y'all a song. Somewhere, ba-bum-bum-bum, beyond the sea, somewhere, waiting for me, ba-bum-bum-bum. You know, it's something like that. Something classy, you know? But anyways, we see them here, showing us the bright white light of day, and the Su-30 flying around quite triumphantly. It seems as though it thinks it's invincible.
It's flying around in a nuclear hellscape.
It's flying around in hell. It's opened the portal of hell and it flew through. Kirk Peterson said, a study conducted said that most millionaires sleep 5 to 6 hours per night. Well, I only sleep 5 to 6 hours per night, and where's my million? Where's my million? I mean, I get no sleep, and I don't have a million. But anyways,
that must explain those sociopathic tendencies with the millionaires. They're sleeping like barely enough to get enough rest.
Man, they ain't sleeping. Man, they sleep with one eye open or something, apparently. It's like, dang, all right. But anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. Nice to see that Su-30 get shot down there right at the end. And moving on from that and on up into Kyiv, it's now time for us to get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 932 of the wire. And it's a pretty long one, actually. It's actually kind of lengthy. So, without further ado, oh goodness.
Give me speech,
I think-
please. I want real speech. Oh, look, it's the fourth summit of first ladies and gentlemen. But first ladies.
Specifically, first ladies. But anyways, here's the speech.
Пані, панове, вітаю
Oh no, it's dubbed over. I'm sorry, everyone. We have to run with it. But anyways, here's the speech.
президента
Speech!
України Володимира Зеленського.
Дуже дякую. Шановні перші леді, джентльмени, шановні присутні, шановні пані та панове. Передусім я дякую усім вам, дякую першій леді України, всім учасникам, всім гостям цього саміту. Дуже дякуємо вам за цей плідний день, за цей надважливий захід, за те, що приїхали до України. У непрості часи, за те, що ми долаємо ці часи разом. І тепер, і в минулі роки, за які ця глобальна платформа довела, це потрібний майданчик, де лунають важливі голоси всього світу. Це ефективний майданчик, де знаходять важливі рішення і надалі впроваджують їх у життя. Дають життю більше захисту, а світу більш справедливості. Завдяки саме вашій активності, діалогу, ініціативам, завдяки тому, що сьогодні ви виступаєте реально послами світлої сторони історії, промоутерами людських цінностей, амбасадорами життя. І я вітаю всіх вас з проведенням цьогорічного вже 4-го саміту. Вітаю. Попри війну, усі виклики, загрози і складнощі, Україна знову збирає перших леді і джентльменів з усього світу. І це дуже важливо. Не ховатись від викликів, долати їх, не відводити очей від загроз, говорити про наболіле, про складне, шукати і знаходити відповіді, підтримувати фокус уваги до України. Це так важливо. І не давати світу забути, адже під ударом сьогодні не тільки Україна, а цінності, свободи і життя всього світу. І цьогорічна тема така важлива – безпека дітей. Напевно, важко знайти два більш полярних, більш протилежних один одному поняття, ніж війна і діти. І, на жаль, у сучасному світі є ті, хто зробив вибір на користь першого, на користь війни. Агресори, диктатори, по-різному їх називають, що обрали руйнацію замість розвитку, безжальні і постійні порушення прав дітей, замість захисту, замість піклування про майбутнє покоління. І це найболючіший аспект війни, цієї війни і будь-якої війни. І те, що діти найбільш вразливі під час війни, це не просто слова. Це факт. Ніщо так не стискає серце, не звучить більш моторошно, аніж дитяче «мені страшно». І можна відбудувати зруйновані будинки, відновити економіку, спроможності інфраструктури, можна розмінувати території, всіяні ворожими мінами. Все це можна зробити, але як повернути дитинство, яке вкрали? І чи існує механізм компенсації за те, що у дітей забрали спокій, забрали безпеку? Нещодавно мені розповіли одну історію про одну розмову, яка трапилась між нашими воїнами в одному із окопів на передовій. Один досвідчений боєць, який захищає Україну з самого початку окупації, з 2014 року, він похвалив свого побратима за відвагу. І вони тільки повернулись з бойового завдання. А потім висловив жаль, що побратим не зустрівся йому раніше, коли б ці його якості дуже б знадобилися. І він запитав його: де ти був у 2015-му? А той відповів: у 10 класі. І я думаю, що це трагедія, ця історія, розумієте? Так, це реальність, і я думаю, таких історій дуже багато серед нас, на фронті і в цивільному житті дуже багато. На жаль, через цю війну, яку приніс Путін. Вчорашні діти, сьогодні воїни. І коли вони захищають рідну землю, і історії, коли вони віддають своє життя. Хтось був у школі, хтось вступив до університету, і в кожного з них забрали дитинство, у когось юність, у когось молодість. Забрали частину найголовнішого, забрали частину життя. Так трапляється, якщо зло жорстко не поставити на місце і не поставити одразу. Саме так буває, коли світ роками думає про червоні лінії, шукає дипломатичні шляхи щодо того, хто роками абсолютно не дипломатично, до речі, вбиває, спалює, гвалтує. Роками вчиняє анексії, розв'язує війни і веде їх стільки, скільки потрібно йому. І буде робити це надалі, допоки світ довкола спить, допоки хтось в світі робить вигляд, що йому не байдуже, але тільки робить вигляд. Допоки хтось в світі вірить у наративи, що Путін протидіє нацизму в Україні, якимось неонацистам, яким саме нацистам. Ви знаєте, сьогодні в Києві прощаються з нашим воїном, загиблим українським захисником, сином головного рабина України Моше Асмана. Яким нацизмом? І я хотів би висловити співчуття йому і всім, хто втратив рідних і близьких. Війна торкається сьогодні кожного, і це торкається всіх нас в Україні, і в Європі, і в світі, всіх нас, абсолютно, чоловіків, жінок, наших батьків, передусім наших дітей. 10 днів тому Україна відзначала, у нас був, можна сказати так, День знань. Це початок нового шкільного року. Але війна принесла нашій країні і нашим дітям абсолютно інші знання, які не має отримувати жодна дитина на планеті. І йти на перший урок під звуки сирен, вчити не лише мову, історію або математику, а вчити короткі маршрути у бомбосховище, адаптуватись до навчання онлайн, адаптуватись до навчання в іншій країні, іншою мовою. Це також факт. Найстрашніше – це не бачити матір або не побачити батька, коли наші родини роз'єднані через повномасштабну війну, яка триває вже майже 3 роки. Народжені після 24 лютого наші діти вже навчились ходити і вже навчились говорити. І війна, на жаль, навчила їх різним словам. Тривога, атака, ракети, обстріли, удари, небезпека. Це не дитячі випробування. І тому сьогодні наші діти задають абсолютно не дитячі, дорослі запитання, що знову летить, коли вже можна піднятися на вулицю, а чи то був приліт, або то наше ППО, коли тато повернеться, і чому Бог не покарає і не забере цього Путіна. І найважливіше питання, коли закінчиться ця війна. Це питання від кожної дитини в Україні. Впевнений, від кожної. І це питання усім нам, всім дорослим на землі. І це питання потребує чесних відповідей, потребує того, аби всі були чесними, передусім самі з собою. Бо дуже легко засуджувати російську ракету, бо це є факт, вона летить у нашу школу. Але не так легко визнати, що у цій ракеті можуть бути деталі з Америки, з Європи, з Азії, з будь-якої частини світу. І ви знаєте, Є такий вислів, зараз звучить переклад, я не знаю, як це англійською, але maybe the same. Тобто диявол у деталях, так? І цей приклад про ракету, цей приклад, на жаль, доводить це в усіх сенсах цього слова. Як це можливо? Чому це можливо? І нехай визнати це дійсно складно, та хіба так само нелегко це виправити? Складно це зупинити. Невже складно це вирішити? Цей саміт, зокрема, і всі зусилля України, наших друзів, гостей, наших союзників загалом доводять, безпека дітей сьогодні стосується всіх нас, кожного, кожної. Вона має об'єднувати, вона об'єднує сьогодні всіх, незалежно від будь-яких політичних рівнів. Лідери держав, перші леді і джентльмени, міжнародні організації, інституції, активні, сміливі, головне, небайдужі люди з усього світу, а загалом дорослі, яким належить подолати недитячі виклики. Україна точно прагне вирішити це завдання. Україна знає відповіді на всі ці питання, пропонує свої рішення світу. Наша формула миру, план нашої перемоги, саміт миру. Там є всі ці справедливі відповіді до справедливого закінчення війни. І так має статися, коли той, хто посягнув передусім на безпеку наших дітей, відповість за скоєне. А повторення таких злочинів в майбутньому стане неможливим. Аби діти в Україні, діти в всьому світі мали щасливе дитинство, щоб близькі були поруч, сім'ї не розділені цією ганебною війною, яку принесла Росія. Щоб світ ніколи більш в майбутньому не бачив фото дитячої звичайної кімнати, у яку прилетів снаряд, або дитину, яку дістають з-під завалів після удари ракет з різними деталями. Ця війна і всі війни мають піти у минуле. Україна прагне цього дуже сильно. Україна об'єднує світ. Заради цього Україна і світ повинні, ми мусимо досягти цього. Я ще раз хочу подякувати всім вам за організацію саміту, участь у ньому, за приїзд до України, за те, що ми боремось разом і обов'язково переможемо. Мусимо це зробити. Слава Україні!
And Heroam Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 932 of the war. And we always put out that speech, that long-lasting speech, because it draws out the bots like sticky paper to roaches. Like, it's crazy. Like, they come in droves during that speech. No other time. They just lie in wait the entire stream for like 2 straight hours until that point, and then they're like, go! And then they all come running into the live chat. But with that, while we have gotten rid of a massive amount of bots, we have gotten rid of all of the news we have for tonight, and we are moving on into a second segment, a long-lasting segment, where we get to talk to all of y'all. And it is incredibly fun. We enjoy it a great deal. And, of course, I want to make sure to make a big announcement to y'all once again, just in case if no one has heard it yet. We've been saying it for weeks now, but I just want to make sure we get the message out. We will not be running live streams from September 14th to September 18th. We will be on a vacation during that time, so it'll be impossible for us to actually run streams then, but we will be back on the 19th, and we will start running streams then, like we have been for pretty much the entirety of the war for 3 straight years. Just want y'all to know that. I cannot say that enough, because I know people are still going to show up and be like, where's the streams? Because they didn't hear it somehow. So I'm trying to make sure to get it out as much as I can, so that way if you're only on right now, or if you're on at some other point, you still hear it and you know that that is going to happen. And so with that, I hope that does put that out there again incredibly well. A good public safety announcement, if we want to call it that, an LSA official announcement. But with that, Matthew, I understand that we have a whole bunch of interesting questions, a whole bunch of interesting questions that we asked everyone else, and a whole bunch of things in between. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so it's now time for the final question segment of the night, the most highly anticipated part of the stream, as I always say. But with that, we're jumping into our last poll question of the night, which says, Russia launched a missile attack on a Ukrainian grain ship in Romanian territorial waters, and that was today, and what are your thoughts? 78% said Russia will ramp up these attacks, while 9% said that this was a one-off attack, and 7% said, I'm gonna need more information. Now, on this one, this is a very big deal. As we actually heard from Zelensky himself today that Russia did strike a cargo ship with the Ukrainian wheat, which was destined for Egypt in the Black Sea. And specifically, the big deal is this ship was struck in Romania's economic zone, which is their territorial waters, and it's right off the shores of Romania. So that is very distinct because that is a NATO country, once again, letting a Ukrainian grain ship get blown up within their economic waters. So that is not good. So the question here is, will Russia ramp up these attacks? And I think, sadly, I'm with the 77%. I think they probably will. This is probably not a one-off, and they're probably going to start attacking Ukrainian grain once again. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say they probably are going to start ramping up these attacks a great deal. Once again, there was no response from anyone about this attack today. Everyone stayed very quiet about it. This will only further encourage the Russians that striking civilian shipping inside of the territorial or economic zones of other NATO countries will be a possibility on into the future. So I would say that nothing's going to happen from this, and these attacks will continue 100%. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. And you know, take it for what it is. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and real quick, let me get another bot. The speech brought out tons and plethoras of bots tonight, and I've had to take out about, well, I was about to say 30, more like 15 in the last like 30 minutes or so quite a bit. But anyways, moving on here to our Super Chat segment, we have a very big one that came in a little bit early on the stream. This one goes to Outdoors Del Marva. This is their first ever Super Chat, and it's a massive $300 donation, which is humongous support. And thank you very much for that first ever support, which is a very big one. And they said for the vacation fund, but do not buy boiled peanuts.
And I thank you so much for that unbelievable support. Outdoors Del Marva, your first super chat ever, and that thing is freaking huge. I mean, that's the biggest super chat that came in tonight. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you for supporting the vacation fund. We have had so many people come out of like the lurkers really to send in support and tell us to have a fun time on the vacation. Really cool to know that we have a lot of lurkers that are really dedicated to the channel we just don't know about. Like for example, you, Outdoors Del Marva, like you just come out of the blue, throw down a $300 super chat, and you're like, have fun on the vacation. And I gotta thank you for that. I really do. Because we will have a lot of fun. We are not going to be getting boiled peanuts. I'm very sure about that. But there's actually a very interesting kind of a thing that I heard about that apparently was a thing that was classic to do in the South. I had never heard about it. But people used to take roasted peanuts. You know how they're kind of salty, Matthew? Like how they salt them up a pretty good bit?
Yeah, they're like in salt water.
Yeah, so people would take, well, not boiled peanuts, roasted peanuts.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Man, it's just like, yeah. Like, but anyways, they would take the roasted peanuts, you know, the ones that aren't boiled and they aren't in water or anything, they're just there and they're roasted. They would take them and they would shove them into the neck of a soda bottle like Coca-Cola or Dr. Pepper or something like that, and then they drink it. And I was like, I never heard about that. It apparently was a very common thing in the South for a little bit of a while. It was more of an Appalachian thing, so it really existed in most of the Appalachian Mountain region. But beyond that, I saw some people trying it, and they said that it was really good. And I actually got interested in wanting to try that, put some roasted peanuts inside of a soda, because they said that it was actually really like pleasant tasting because it kind of gave it like a salty and sweet kind of a mix. Like it doesn't sound that good, like, you know, hearing that someone dropped roasted peanuts in a Coke or something, but apparently a lot of people really liked it. So I don't know, maybe it wasn't that good because, you know, it has fallen off. I'm from the South and I've never heard about it. But some people would actually say I'm from the Appalachian Mountains because, you see, we're here in Birmingham and we were born not that far away. The foothills of the Appalachians are here in Alabama. These are actually it. You can actually see them going into the area around Birmingham. This is literally the very, very bottom of the Appalachians. This is actually the foothills leading up to the Appalachian Mountains in this area. And I have heard someone, Matthew, claim that they are from the Appalachian Mountains and they're from Middletown, Ohio, way out in like the middle of the plains pretty much. So if that is possible, We too are Appalachian Mountain boys. Apparently so.
Look, Jack, I was in the foothills of the Appalachians. I was with Xi Jinping. But anyways,
Man, it will be like that. So we're gonna have to do that, man. It's gonna be like that for real. But beyond that, I gotta say, huge thanks to you so much once again. If we get something on this trip, like a snack or something like that, it won't be boiled peanuts. I'm trying to think of what it would be. Let me think. What would you get, Matthew?
I honestly don't know. Without giving it away, I couldn't. I don't know.
Man, I'd be dipped. Yeah, we can't give it away, so it's really hard to answer that question. You know what? We will show y'all. We will show y'all. But you know something really...
What?
What? Huh? What? Huh? What? Where?
Show them what?
We will show them eventually when we get back,
Oh,
Matthew.
yeah.
What?
I was worried. It sounded like you're saying, "Oh yeah, we don't want to give it away, but I'm gonna show them." I was like, "No."
I know, man, that's not happening. But Matthew, just to give them a little bit of an idea of where we'll be going, do y'all know about Branson, Missouri? There was actually like a really serious incident that happened here a while ago. Like we're actually thinking about heading out here and taking a look at this because there was a Ride the Ducks attraction way back in the day that no longer exists here, I don't think. But there was a steamboat, a paddle boat somewhere out here near Branson, and what happened was a severe storm came in, and the little Ride the Ducks like amphibious car thing, it ended up going under the paddle wheel, and pretty much everyone on the Ride the Ducks thing ended up getting thrashed by the paddle wheel of the steamboat. It was a pretty crazy story. The NTSB investigation was as crazy as the story itself with how that happened and everything in between. It's a very interesting story. I would take a look at it, but yeah, that's the only reason why I know of Branson, Missouri. Another thing that I wanted to show y'all, a lot of people may be interested in this, just to really throw y'all off, is Altoona, Pennsylvania. Because Altoona, Pennsylvania is in the middle, it's literally in the heart of Pennsylvania. It's kind of in the Appalachian Mountain area for the large part. But Altoona, Pennsylvania is home to probably the most famous part of American railroads there is, which is the horseshoe curve right here. A lot of people know this one. It's like famous throughout all of America. It's the horseshoe curve thing. Have you seen this before, Matthew?
I've never seen that. What is that? A treatment pond or something in the middle?
I don't know what that is actually. What is that? I don't know. Maybe it is a treatment plant kind of a thing. I don't really know. It's a water treatment thing. Yep. That is what it is. But beyond that, this is a very, very famous part of American railroading. It is one of the biggest horseshoe curves in America, and it's one of the most famous ones here in the East Coast. Take a look at that, Matthew. That grimy-looking, nasty SD70 hauling it around the horseshoe curve with, I don't even know what the hell this one is. Like, it's like a -8 or something. I don't know. And then an ES44.
If I were driving the train, I would like get a little speed up, a little yeah, and then I would like get that thing going as fast as it could and try to not flip it, but go around that corner fast.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I'd be whipping the thing. I think the speed limit around this curve is like 30 miles an hour, so it's actually kind of fast a little bit. But dang, man, I mean, they kind of have some old stuff out here. I'm pretty sure, now I might be wrong, that this is a -8. Which are fairly old at this point. It's kind of interesting to see, because down here in the South, whenever you see Norfolk Southern, it's always like pretty decently modern locomotives, like the ES44s, which aren't that modern, but there's a lot of rebuilds, so you know they kind of count. But yeah, I mean, interesting, very, very interesting. But this is still an interesting place in America, and Altoona is a very interesting place in the United States as well. I mean, it's a really interesting place. Like, look, the Boyer Candy Company, man. You ever wanted to go here? I mean, it's a factory outlet for Boyer.
That actually looks kind of good.
Yeah, you will know their candies. They're in gas stations and stuff. This is the actual factory that makes them. And you know something else that's interesting about Pennsylvania, Matthew? If we were to go all the way up to the northern area of Pennsylvania, there's a town called Bradford here. And this is a very interesting place right here, you see, because there is a building here. And I got to make sure to find it correctly. So let me scroll through to make sure that I locate this exactly dead on the nail. Yep, here we go. This building right here manufactures every single Zippo lighter in the world.
Every single one. That's crazy. That's like that what's that place? I can't remember. I think it's Tabasco. Tabasco's only made one place in the world too, isn't it? Like down there in Louisiana on Avery Island.
Yeah, Avery Island is where all the Tabasco in the world's made.
Yeah, I like that. The way they like it just manufactured in one spot and it's famous for that. That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, man. And look at that. It's the Zippo company. Here in all of its glory, the manufacturing of all Zippos is done here in Bradford, Pennsylvania. That's actually where Zippo was founded. It was founded in this town. And I think there's another interesting thing. I think you'll like this one. Yeah, here we go. W.R. Case and Sons Cutlery Company is also here, and they make all kinds of very cool knives. The Zippo Jeep was here at the time, but but man, I wish I could show you that one because I got to see some of the stuff out of there. It's really good, high quality stuff. But it's also made in Bradford. Pennsylvania is actually a really cool place. Like, don't let anyone fool you otherwise. It's cool. Don't let them lie to you. But let's see here. There was something else cool around this area. There was some giant railroad bridge that was like 9 miles long. It ended up burning up and falling apart. Where in the... Here we go. The Kinzua Bridge State Park. This used to be a railroad bridge. The entire middle section burned down in a fire, and you can actually see that it collapsed down there, and they didn't recover it, so it's just a mangled wreck down there. But this was the longest bridge of its type, I believe, in this area of North America, which was really cool in its own right. Now it just exists kind of as a state park, as a reminder of the bridge that once existed and now is scattered on the floor of the forest.
I've been kind of sketched out to ride across that bridge, even if it was like not burned down, because it looks kind of rickety a little bit.
Man, it really does look kind of rickety. And also, this is how high it was. Oh my lord, it won't load the picture. Isn't that ridiculous? But the picture here on the left, Matthew, that's actually the height of the Statue of Liberty from the base of the pedestal to the top of the torch, and how high this thing was above the bottom of the forest floor at its peak.
Oh hell no. No, I wouldn't go on that one.
Yeah, man, that's freaking terrifying when you think about it. It's like it's like nah, I pass. I'm good. But still pretty cool. Like, you know, Pennsylvania is a pretty neat place. Check it out sometime, folks. Check it out. And also a big shout out to the person who showed me all this. Really cool person. They actually watched the channel. If they're watching tonight, hope they appreciate the shout out and also a little look around where they're from. But anyways, moving on from that. It is time for us to get on into some more questions, but still, a huge thanks to you once again, Outdoors Delmarva, for that incredible support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Z Decoy, who puts in a $35 donation. Thank you very much, Z Decoy, for that support. I appreciate it, and also we appreciate it. And they said, back lurking again, and previously you mentioned that it's not feasible to wire your internet connection, and could power line network adapters work as a workaround? And thanks for your work, and enjoy your holiday, and take one from the chat. And Z Decoy, not to get into too much detail, we don't want to get into OPSEC or anything like that. We appreciate the advice. Sadly, that would not be feasible for various reasons I sadly can't get into on stream. But we have some odd limitations that we have to work with our internet because of the design of the house. So kind of a little bit interesting, and I'm not sure if we're ever are going to be able to fix this properly. So I don't know. I think we're left with moving away from this house. I think that's the bottom line. So I'm not really sure. We'll have to see. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I would have to agree with that. And boy, does everyone want to get the hell out of here. Everyone wants to get out of here. You know, it's something else. You know, when you got little creatures crawling around. You know, it's not good. It's not good. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. At least the best we can. We can't get into too much detail. I'm sorry about that, Decoy. But still, thank you so much for enjoying our work, and thank you for wanting us to enjoy the holiday, and we will, hopefully, here really soon. And we will make sure to take one from the chat in your honor. And so, what do we got, Matthew?
And this one is going to go to David Tablet, who says, I'm hearing that Su-30 was shot down by an F-16, and do you have any info on that?
We do not know if it was shot down by an F-16. We actually heard there was a manpad. It was an Igla that shot down the Su-30 somewhere in that area. So we do know that the Su-30 was shot down, but as far as it being shot by an F-16, we actually have contradictory information that suggests that a manpad shot the Su-30 down instead. And so with that, I hope that does address that chat fairly well, at least according to the information we have. And with that, thank you once again for sponsoring that live chat, Z Decoy, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one. And what do we got, Matthew?
So our next one here goes to Neiman Bauer, who puts in a $30 donation. Thank you very much, Neiman, for that $30 support. You're helping to keep us running. They said, good morning, Enforcer. Just wanted to support your great work with us keeping informed. And after all, I'm proud that the U.S. has an eye over us Europeans. That makes me proud. And thank you, and greetings from Austria.
And a hello to Austria. You know, we were talking about Austria last night, coincidentally. Pretty crazy, right? But beyond that, I gotta say that I love to know that many Europeans are appreciative of the United States being an ally with the entirety of Europe, and that largely being a mutual alliance that everyone really benefits from. Austria really benefits a great deal from it because, you see, Austria is just so pretty they'd never be able to defend themselves. You know what I mean? Like, the country is just too good looking to actually have an effective military. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of one of those places. Like, rainfall warning. I've never seen a rainfall warning in my life. Are y'all made of sugar or are y'all wishes? Like, which one is it? Because apparently y'all have to get inside and hide when it rains. That's interesting. I don't know what's up with a rainfall warning. So, what is this? Take action to protect yourself and act on advice given by authorities. Widespread flooding of properties with significant risks to life and evacuation possible. Severe travel disruption and loss of power, communications, and water supplies is likely. Dangerous driving conditions due to reduced visibility and aquaplaning. So, wait a minute. Total rain amounts between 120 and 200 millimeters are expected. Hang on, everyone. Millimeters to inches. And so we're going to put this in 120. Hang on, 120. Oh my lord, 4.7 inches of rain is what can set off a flood warning. I'm not believing that, okay? Because we get like 12 to 15 inches of rain here in Alabama on just a given day, and nothing will happen, like, at all.
That's how fast it comes down, man. It's how fast. If it comes down all at once, like within like a short little span, it will cause a flash flood. If it comes down over like a day, that won't cause a flash flood. But I think it's about the frequency of the rainfall.
But yeah, but still 4 inches? Like, that's hardly anything. Like, that could, like, even if that all fell at the same time, you could largely just let that drain. You know, it wouldn't even be that big of an issue.
Yeah, you just make sure you pull the drain plug out.
Yeah, just whip out the drain plug. But anyway, just let's see what the inside of Vienna looks like. Wow. Aw, man, it looks so good. It's like a fairy tale. It really does look nice, though, no joke.
Is this where they make Vienna sausages?
I think it is, actually. I think this is, I think, oh,
whoa, Jack.
Soigu! He's here! He's here, and he's right by the Louis Vuitton!
Oh, no. Man, what is Wagner? Is that, Europeans in the chat, is that a real store, or what is this?
Interesting. I'm very, very interested in this. And then we have, whatever the hell that is. I don't even know what that means. And then we got Cartier. And then we got Croca. And we got Armand. And we got Armani. We got Armani here. We got Breitling. And we have,
Fendi. I want a Fendi for my Fender.
You want a Fendi? Okay, all right, leave me hanging there. I was trying to build off.
I don't even know what it is, man. I'm just playing.
Yeah, I said, you want a Fendi? And you just stopped talking. I was like, all right. I was like, leave me to dry. Why not? But we got a Michael Kors. Gee, this kind of is like any big American city, almost, like with the outlets here. Hublot, if I'm mispronouncing.
Hublot. Now, I don't know anything about watches hardly, but I've seen this guy on YouTube. I think he's Irish or something. He's the Irish watch guy. And he dogs on Hublot or Hublot or whatever you call it all the damn time. Like, the guy hates it. I have no idea why he hates it, but I'll have to take his word for it because he's very animated about it. So Hublot is a no-go.
The Apothecary. I want. Oh man, do y'all have Coke and not the drink or whatever? But let's see.
Mans. You got some mans.
Man, you got some manzier up in here. Let's see here. What else do we have? We got Anna with the N spelled backwards, so it's actually like Anya or something like that. And then we got Handel. I don't know.
Is that food?
It looks like chocolate.
Oh, that looks kind of good.
Yeah, it is chocolate. It is chocolate. So there are some different stores But one thing I gotta say though, like, and I'm not saying this is like a mark against Austria, it's like, oh, it's like any big city, is I just cannot stand things like Rolex just being international. You know, I feel like every country ought to have their own specific brands and their own companies inside of their own countries. I absolutely hate it when major companies kind of suck the soul out of every country in the world, because you can be guaranteed that Austria has McDonald's. You can be guaranteed that Tommy Hilfiger is going to be in Austria. Like, it's like, why? It's like they should not be. I'm 100% for Austria having its own companies that it's proud of, that it showcases. You know, it's just annoying to me.
Also, by the way, this sign there on the left, like look up to the left and zoom in on that sign with the jewel on it. Like, oh no, the other way or to the right, to the right. It's that white sign with a black lettering or other way around. It says Jewelin anti-schmuck. Man, that jeweler ain't playing around, man. They said we're not having no schmuck.
We ain't having no, dude. This guy's gotta have like the thickest New Yorker accent. He's like, all right, we ain't having no schmucks around here. You're only buying jewelry. That's it. You kiss and you buy, you bastard. Anti-schmuck. That's what we got going on around here. Oh my lord, that's crazy.
They're
I didn't
playing
even,
around.
dude. They are not playing around. They're like, no more schmucks around here. Get the schmucks out of here. But what's here at the end of the street? Mind you, the CC Museum Hofburgwein. So let's see. What is this? What is this building? Imperial dining utensils and something else. Oh la la! Oh, this is actually really nice. Very impressive, I will say. We better not show Mother those heavens. We'll have to take a trip here. but still, it's really cool. Actually, I think it's really nice. I would have to.
Me, it looks posh. It looks expensive. Why are all the rooms in red? That's kind of odd.
They're in red, brother, because they gotta get that passion up in there. You know what I mean? The red, the color of passion. But beyond that, still really cool looking place, really pretty, no joke. And let's see here. What else? What else do we have? We have the Rathausplatz. And there's the Rathaus, which is like the town hall of a sort. Really beautiful building.
The rat house. I love that. The politicians go to the rat house.
your city council and everything is in the rat house. It's like you just couldn't come up with a more adept name. What is that?
That's weird.
We got Schmoopus up here. I don't know what Schmoopus is, but it's there. And we've got the Wiener Estrom. That's a weird Vina. But I'm just kidding. But still, I really like the place. It is gorgeous, very pretty. And this is just Vienna. And there are so many other beautiful cities throughout the entirety of Austria, really, that aren't Vienna. Like, for example, just to quickly hop over to one and show it, the city of Linz. Let us take a look at the city of Linz. Look at the city of Linz.
You can see a lot clearer when you go to Linz. Because you can see with your glasses on when you have your lenses.
Man, you just have clearer lenses in Linz. There's just no way to explain it. Look at this guy. He's even got clearer vision here because he's looking through the proper lens. If we look around Linz, you can see all kinds of different lenses of life. Life on the Danube, life in the industry, life in the city, life near the river again, life near the churches. So many different lenses of life here. So many little riverboats here traveling around up and down the river. A different lens of its own. Linz is a city of lenses, of different kinds of walks of life. But still, beyond that, gotta say, it is a really beautiful place, no joke. And of course, we were kidding around a lot in Vienna, but I actually have a very big affinity for Austria, Switzerland, and also northern Italy, because it's just so pretty in most of these countries, and also their architectural style is without compare, in my opinion. I'd say it's one of the best out there in Europe. So I got to thank you so much once again for supporting the kind words as well, because the United States always wants to make sure to work hand in hand with everyone in Europe to defend such beautiful places and such amazing cultures and interesting people around the world. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And of course, thank you for being one of our Austrian viewers of the Lee Spring Army. And thank you for being proud of the LSA and America as well. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat is going to go to Purple Gerbil, who puts in a $25 donation. And thank you, Purple Gerbil, for always supporting the channel, and we appreciate it. It said, take one from the chat, and LSA it forever. And we shall get one from the chat, Purple Gerbil. We shall. But Enforcer, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, LSA forever! And thank you for the support, Purple Gerbil, and being a dedicated member of the Lee Spring Army. And so a huge thanks to you once again. And with that, what do we got for a live chat, Matthew? What do we get?
So the live chat question here is going to go to Mr. Rattle, who says, have you seen the video of the M109 Paladin howitzer getting struck by CSX train in South Carolina, and the truck that was carrying it was the main thing that got hit? What? I did see that, by the way, Mr. Rattle. That fella who was driving the semi-truck somehow got the trailer jacked up on the rails and the tracks on a railroad crossing, and it was carrying an M109 on the back. Luckily, the M109 was generally safe, but it probably damaged it a little bit because it got whacked around by the train, but that train demolished the trailer and the back of that truck. But Enforcer, do you see it, or do you need me to grab it?
I need you to grab that. I have to see this, Matthew. I have to see this.
Let me open up the Twitter real quick. Let's see here.
And we're going to be waiting while Matthew pulls that up. I would have to say I'm terribly sorry for the loss of the vehicle and the loss of the locomotive that most likely happened. I don't know the damage to either, but I hate to hear either of them getting damaged.
It's reposted.
Oh, thank you. Is it on the main page, or is it on the likes tab?
Main page. This is a main page type of post.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is going to be a tragedy here to watch. So let's watch this all together.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
Oh my goodness.
Damn.
And that looks like an AC 4400. Like, this thing is not light. Like, this thing is one of the bigger ones that could hit it.
They call this one the plow.
Oh my god, dude. It caught the cab. Did you see that?
Let's see it again.
Watch this. It hits the trailer, flips the turret around. The barrel starts sticking into the rear cab. The rear cab catches the turret and the barrel. Yoink! Oh my god. Dude, that is done.
Yeah, I take it back. Because I actually thought it didn't grab it that bad. I saw another angle earlier than this video, but I think it might have damaged it quite badly.
Dude, this is straight back to the Anniston Army Depot with this one. They're going to have to literally rebuild the entire Paladin at this point. This guy got fired, you know it. Like there's no other way. Dude, what kind of an idiot? He tried to take the right turn so hard, it looks like he got, like, the trailer jackknifed onto, like, the railroad crossing itself. Like, no joke. Look at that.
I don't think he could have made it even if he hit it like head on, because it looks like the grade's too steep for that low boy. But I'm not a trucker expert, so I don't know. But it looks like he was going up a hill. Oh
my lord! Look at this. I'm about to see it from this angle. This guy had the same reaction I did, man. He went, "No!" It's like, oh.
I'm surprised I didn't derail the train or something.
Oh man, and that thing had a weight behind it too. It was an intermodal. Dude, this was like a nightmare from every level.
That kid said, "It's the army."
Yeah,
look at a Mustang police car out here. Do you see that?
What? Wait a minute. No, I didn't. Where? Oh, dude,
right
right there. Yeah, right there. Look at that. Dude, you know,
unusual.
This municipality is probably the kind, man, that isn't putting money into the parks, but they sure as hell are putting money into the police cars. Like, you know, it's got to be the case. But, dang, man, that's a rough one right there.
I just don't understand how so many people get stuck on the tracks like that. Like, I've heard the truck drivers say that it's a common occurrence to get stuck on the tracks, but I just don't understand. It's like, Don't you see, like, when you start driving up the grade that it's going to be a little too steep and you're going to bottom out? It's like, how does this happen?
Man, I don't know how it happens. I wouldn't even know. But I'll tell you this, man. That Paladin does look like it's been jacked up a good bit. Like the gun, you can see that there's some sort of a breakage on the barrel right in front of the thermal exchange. Well, the thermal discharge or whatever you want to call it. It also looks like the breech, or at least the gun mantle may have been messed up a little bit as well. Actually, it looks like the gun mantle actually broke. Like, you can just see a giant part of it just got sheared off in the impact, probably with the cab. But this thing is going to have to be sent to probably Anniston Army Depot, considering that it's here in South Carolina at Goose Creek, to be completely rebuilt, probably from the ground up. So this thing has pretty much been slated out of action probably for the next several months, maybe even a year, because Anniston Army Depot is always busy, so this thing's probably getting put in a queue at this point. But dang, I have not seen anything like this in a while. In fact, I've never seen anything like this, a actual army piece of army property being damaged at a railroad. Like, I've never seen that before. Man, everyone had to come out to see this, from the sheriff, the police, everyone. But that is wild.
That's going to be a lot of paperwork for the train driver and the truck driver, I'm sure.
There's going to be a lot of paperwork for the train, for the engineer of the locomotive, the truck driver, the army. Dude, there's going to be endless paperwork on this one right here because it involved a lot. But dude, the way that thing slammed it, like, geez, look at this again. As we hear that soul music. Give me a beat, boys. Free. Oh, and there we go again. What kind of?
I wonder what do you think as an engineer on this train, like when you're plowing through something like those? I wonder if they're wanting to jump out, like, jump off the train, or are they like just sitting in the cab, like, oh, we'll be fine, like, let's just plow straight through it.
Cab's actually pretty solid. Usually, actually, like when any like storm happens, I believe the policy for a lot of railroads is that if there's a tornado warning, everyone is to go try and hop inside of a locomotive because they're so heavy they're not going to be lifted anywhere. And on top of that, the cabs are generally well enough insulated that you can largely survive a tornado inside of one of these things. Like, they're pretty strong. So I think he was probably just not phased at all, because look, it didn't even really stop the momentum of this thing. If you watch, like, they just kept going because it's got so much weight behind the thing, you hardly even feel it.
Yeah.
But geez.
When you see that like barrel and that whole turret get smashed around like that, like so easily, like that train has barely snagged the front of that barrel and it like flung it around like it was a toy. That train is like got some crazy power behind it.
Man, these things are crazy powerful. Like the lead locomotive, I don't know about this SD60 back here that they had on this train, but the lead locomotive looks like an AC 4400. This thing's got 4,400 horsepower in the thing, and on top of that, I think if I remember the weight correctly, it's hundreds of thousands of pounds. I mean, well, let me go check that because I know I'm probably getting that one wrong. So let me go put this right here. So let me go get you all the weight on this thing. So the weight of the lead locomotive here was 426,000 pounds. And it's 426,000 pounds moving forward with 4,400 horsepower just in this one locomotive with probably 1 million tons of cargo. Well, not 1 million tons, 1 million pounds of cargo behind it on the remainder of the train. And then a whole other locomotive behind it that is also hundreds of thousands of pounds with an additional several thousand horsepower. And probably a trailing locomotive on the very back that is also the same. So this thing is unstoppable, really. I mean, if you put the Paladin in front of this thing, it would have just dragged it down the tracks until it finally came to a stop.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Trains have a lot of power behind them, I'm telling you.
Man, they really do. Oh, man, I'm telling you. Like, they really do. But look at this. Actually, when the gun barrel jackknifed into the cab, you can actually see that it kind of tipped the SD60 a little bit right there. Look at that. Just a little bit, but hardly at all.
It poked it.
Here we go. Oh, no.
No!
Oh, man, that would be my reaction. But jeez, that's rough. But anyways, thank you for sharing that. I actually did not see that today. I had to watch that several times because I saw that it's a tragedy. It really is for everyone involved. But beyond that, I would say as far as that goes, that is pretty rough. But now I have seen it, Mr. Rattle, and so I thank you for asking about that and sharing that so that way we could see it. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And look at that, Walter A. Lakota's here tonight. Look at that. Welcome in. Welcome in.
Hey, welcome back.
But with that, thank you once again for sponsoring that live chat. I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat is going to go to Chargy, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you, Chargy, as well, for that very generous support. And it's good to see you once again. They said a little something for the boys' vacation fund. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you. They said enjoy some time off, and the LSA will be here when you return. And thank you very much, Chargy. I tell you what, Chargy's the one who always contributes to the In-N-Out Burger Fund. Sadly, I don't think we're going to have a chance to get any In-N-Out Burger because our vacation, I can't get into it, but we're not going to have any In-N-Out Burger, I don't think, sadly. But thank you very much, Chargy, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, I thank you for the support, Shargy, and helping this channel to keep on running. I thank you for supporting the vacation fund. We will have a great time on this vacation. And also, is it an EMD-SD7? Oh, hang on. We'll get to that in a minute, Rob. I'm sorry. But beyond that, I will have to say, I thank you once again for supporting the vacation fund. We are going to have a blast, and I cannot wait to share everything about it with y'all when we come back, because it's a vacation the likes of which has never really been seen before. Not that we're doing anything crazy, like we're not going to be, driving around on go-karts in the middle of like the Las Vegas Strip and like some sort of a sponsored race or anything. That would be crazy. But we will be doing something really cool, and we will get to show you all that. And for some reason, Matthew, because we're going to be in America, and most of our viewers are American, there's actually going to be a pretty decent chance that we might actually end up running into a couple of y'all out there in the wild, if y'all are in the right place at the right time. Because y'all would think that that wouldn't happen, but crazily enough, even just wandering around Birmingham these days, I have actually been recognized a handful of times, enough to know that when we take this vacation, there's a chance we may get recognized where we're heading. So we'll see if any of y'all run up. If any of y'all see us out in the wild, feel more than free to approach us and say hello, because I would be more than happy to say hello back to you and get to talk for a little bit. But we also will be on a bit of a schedule of a sort, so we won't be able to talk for long. But I would love to know that y'all are watching the channel and that y'all actually caught us in person. That would be neat to me. And so with that, I thank you so much once
Also,
again.
make sure to approach with a friendly, "Oh hey, Enforcer," and not, "Oh hey, it's the Enforcer." Because I'll be like, "Oh, whoa, who's this?" It's like, "Is this the Russians? They finally caught up with us or something like that?" It's like, "Oh goodness!" But I'll be like, "Oh, who are you, good sir?" And they'll be like, "Oh, I'm from the chat." And you know what? Honestly, this, I'm not gonna run around scared thinking the Russians are after us or something like that. But I will be on slight alert to see if anyone's like lurking or something like that, because nobody knows where we're going, by the way. So the Russians will have to go find out where we're going first of all. But I wonder if we got any Russian agents running around our country. I doubt they're running around free like they are in Europe, but I wonder.
And I wonder as well, but I have a feeling we're largely going to be safe. But if any of y'all run into us somehow, some way, just be like, "Oh, hello, Enforcers, hello," or something like that, or just yell, "Long live the LSA," and we'll know. We'll be like, "Hey," we'll be like, "Long live the LSA," or something like that. That would be cool. But still, thank you
Now
so
the
much.
Russians are taking notes or scribbling down. Say hello in a friendly way. Password
approach
marmot.
approach target and say, "Long live LSA, Bliet," or something like that. It's gonna be like, "Oh no, they're learning." But still, huge thanks to you once again for support, Sharky. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Pete Watson, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Pete, for that support. We appreciate it. He said, Enforcer Matt, suggesting in blowing the Russian heavy fortified defenses, refer to what Australians did in World War I in Belgium Hill 60.
Oh, buddy. Belgium Hill 60, you mean Crater 60. Let me show you all this crater here. Because, well, you see what happened back in the day is that the Russians, well, I'm sorry, not the Russians, the Germans, they built a really, really big bunker in a defensive position on this hill, Hill 60, in the area of Passchendaele, or Ypres, as it's called. But beyond that, they decided to dig under the fortifications, and they planted a whole bunch of bombs down there, and they blew them up. And what happened when they blew them up is that they created this giant crater that still exists today. You can actually see some sort of a painting of the crater, but I want to show y'all the actual crater. And so let me see if I can get y'all a good picture here. You can actually see some of the bunkers that are left over from World War I. Crazy they still exist, you know. But trying to find y'all a picture of the crater. And it looks like there was one up here. It wasn't that good of one, but there is the crater. And what you're looking at up here, the flat level area, is the top of the hill. Everything down here, you can actually see that person in there. This whole thing was a crater that was made by a massive explosion of bombs that they planted under the German position. So you could do something like that, but tunneling like that is very difficult these days, especially if the Russians start to employ anti-tunneling measures like microphones planted into the ground, listening for any kind of seismic activity, because it's pretty easy to hear people nowadays, especially with modernized machinery, trying to tunnel through the dirt below and try and plant bombs. And on top of that, the distance the Ukrainians would have to dig these tunnels would be a lot longer than the tunnels that were built in World War I, which were usually just a couple of 100 yards long at the longest. The Ukrainians would have to dig some that may be a mile or 2 miles or even longer than that to be able to reach the Russian defensive positions. But it still is an idea. If the Ukrainians really wanted to try, they could certainly give it a shot, no doubt about it. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And thank you once again for sharing a very interesting idea, Pete Watson. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Rob Keith, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Rob, for that support as well. He said, for the vacay.
And for the vacay indeed, Rob Keith. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running it. Thank you for supporting the vacation, because we're going to have an absolute blast. And I thank you once again for wanting us to take it and supporting it so that way we can in between September 14th to the 18th, when we will not be running live streams. And so with that, thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one's going to go to Leora Abigail, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Leora, for that support. They said, hey, Enforcers, this is a great community and great to be a part of the LSA. And did you guys ever clip that video of the screaming,
Bliat.
Bliat. I thought it said something else. But they said that was historically hilarious, LMAO, and Slav Ukraine.
We didn't clip it, Leora, but I hope that someone did, because that was absolute comedy gold right there. Just sitting there, it is another day in Russian trench. Boom, boom, boom. Bam, bam, bam. I'm dead! Something like that. Like, that was funny. I hope someone did clip it, so that way you can start circulating around out there somewhere. But we didn't clip it, sadly. But it is still there for all to see. And it's also on last week's map, too, if anyone wanted to go and find it and watch it again, just for the fun of it. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that fairly well, Leora Abigail, and I'm glad to know that we finally corrected your last name and we're getting it right. And so with that, thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Dracula Flo, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Dracula Flo, for that support. They said, I just read on Wikipedia that the Brooch warhead in the Storm Shadow was developed by 3 companies, including an American on One Bay Systems. And could this be how the U.S. is able to deny permission?
Maybe so, but the problem with that is that a lot of American systems end up getting used in a whole bunch of stuff. And so if something is sourced from, say, America, does that mean that America has a right to tell you what to do with everything that has an American component in it? And the answer to that will largely be no. Because the concept behind that is that America is 100% understanding that when they sell that technological component, they're giving the British a pretty high chance to make their own weapon and do whatever they want with that weapon. And so they kind of assume the risk with that in mind, unless if we wanted to impose sanctions on the United Kingdom about certain kinds of technologies. So I would largely say maybe that could be the way, but I'm doubting it in a sense. I still think America is certainly crossing a red line there, and is doing things that are far overboard at this point with what they are able to do. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support. And also, Dracula Flo, aren't you that guy who sits there and says, this shit ain't nothing to me, man? Like, that kind of stuff. Are you that guy? Like, man, isn't this the guy who sits there and says, like, that crazy stuff, like, that Smith & Wesson got me moving like an invasive species? Isn't he that guy? I think Dracula Flo is that guy. Wait a minute, hang on. I gotta go pull this up, man, because I think Dracula Flo is legit the guy. Like,
I'll make sure you don't play that on the stream, whatever you do.
Dude, it is Dracula Flo. Like, that is Dracula Flo. Because I got, like, the clips playing, man, where he goes, the worms! The worms! Like, I got that, like, ready to go. So, Thank you so much for the support, Dracula Flow, and helping this channel to keep on running. I'm glad I recognized you, and thank you once again for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I saw Vinnie Mac say in the live chat, he said, famous YouTubers aren't even as covert as these guys. Don't worry, nobody will recognize you. That's probably true, to be honest. Like, nobody will probably recognize us by our face, but someone might hear us talking and be like, hey, I recognize that voice. Because the enforcer's been recognized out in public based on his voice. They didn't recognize his face, but once they heard him speak, they're like, hey, wait a minute, that's that guy. He's that guy, pal. So, you know, I might have to speak in a different tone or something like that. I might have to go around and maybe up the tone a little bit and be like, oh, hey there. Hello, good sir. How are you today? Might have to go around talking like that or something so no one recognizes me. But anyways,
man, you know what I'm gonna have
what are you doing? You changing that voice or what?
Man, I'm gonna have to change my voice, man. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go, oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. First thing I try and go on a vacation, and next thing you know, everyone recognizes me. Oh man, I went up to a guy. He said he watched my channel, and he told me I had a face for radio. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man, I get no respect around here. Oh man, I hope that the hot dog man doesn't show up. Oh man, he's gonna try and disconnect my jaw. Oh man, I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I didn't even have a jaw. Oh man, it's just where the fat connects to the body. Oh man, I'm telling you. Oh man, but still, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Or I may go around and go, excuse me, sir. Could I have one hamburger, please? Jimmy's mom, or whatever. I'm trying to get into. No, what? What do you mean, man? Like, what the hell do you mean? Yeah, I can have a burger.
Man, I'm going to either talk super low, like, damn, son, where'd you find this? Or I'm going to talk super high and high pitched, like, man, the mic won't even pick it up. I'm saying it. It's going dead or trying to do that.
Man, I'm going to talk like Carl
I'm just speaking a
Weezer.
high one.
Man, I'm going to talk like Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron. Are you going to finish that croissant? You know, like, I'm going to talk like that, and no one's going to recognize me. They're going to be like, who is that weirdo? And it's like, that's the enforcer. That's the weirdo. It's like, but anyways, we're having too much fun with this, Matthew. We cannot have too much fun. Fun police, we've got to stop that. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. But a big thanks to you once again for support, Dracula Flow, and also thank you for saying that. No, hopefully no one will know where we're going, because I hope not, at least until we're done. But anyways, thank you once again. We're on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Hoodoo Texas, a longtime channel legend. Excuse me, goodness. And Hoodoo puts in a $10 support. And he says, Psycho Hitler became so angry with the U.S. helping Britain and giving his subs trouble in 1941 that he did not hesitate in declaring war on the U.S. in December 13th of 1941. And could Psycho Putin be as stupid?
Psycho Putin could be as stupid, but I have a feeling he probably wouldn't be, because unlike Germany, who thought that maybe that was just going to be an act of goodwill and America wouldn't focus on the European front first, Putin largely understands that this is the front we'll focus on, because it's the only one that would be going on right now. So I would say, yeah, probably not. I'm still doubting it, but there's always a possibility that it could happen. Just to not say it's completely impossible, because saying that something is completely impossible, you always end up being wrong whenever you make a statement like that, so I'm not going to make it like that. But still, I hope that does address that well. And I saw Butchie 777 say, the RFK voice is the best, and I have to thank you. I found a whale on the way home, and it was Chris's mom. But with that, we are on to the next one.
It's a good try and a good attempt that you're doing, but it's not as good as the real deal. I'm sorry, but the worms, oh my God, the worms. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat here. This one goes to Rangers Rule, who's a longtime channel legend as well, and puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Rangers Rule, for that support.
Hey.
I think they've already left for the night, sadly, and they did not leave a comment. But thank you very much, as always. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you for the support, Rangers Rule, and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so thank you once again. You didn't leave a comment, but the support does mean a lot. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Eric Ellingwood, who puts in a 10 as well. And thank you, Eric, also for that support. And I see here they said my child homes demolished Doplex? Is that it in its place? And can we get a Bangor, Maine hood review? Texas Avenue versus West Broadway, and also Stephen King Foundation. Plus, make Ukraine edible. Forced for 1 billion marmots.
And I thank you for the support, Eric Ellingwood. I was trying to understand that last part, and I think I get it now. But moving on from that, we have to look at Texas Avenue versus West Broadway. So we need to find Texas Avenue and West Broadway. Texas Avenue and West Broadway. Texas Avenue and West Broad. So here's West Broadway here. So we will drop down on this street. West Broadway isn't that big, but we will drop down on it. And we will take a look at it, just for safekeeping. Why does everyone keep calling everything a hood? This is fine. This is great. Like, this is wonderful, really. Like, this is actually a nice suburban town. No joke. I would say I would move here. I would live here. Like, no lie. Not bad at all.
It's all relative what people call hoods. Like the idea of hoods up north is a lot different than down south, I think. Up north, they call a hood like this. This is a normal suburban neighborhood, like you're saying. But like a real hood, like we've got some real hoods down here in Alabama. We actually like lived in one for a very, very long time. And it's rough, very rough. The crime is violent, it's crazy, and it doesn't look anywhere as nice as that nice suburb right there that we were looking at. But I'll tell you what, man, it's interesting.
And let me go find Texas Avenue really quickly before I show y'all a real hood. But let's see. Texas Avenue in Bangor, Maine. Here we go. And oh, here we go. This is it. This is it. Like, it's just a little road that's around the airport, and it looks like it's not a bad place. Oh, hello there. You look kind of chill. Okay, this road is a little rough, but still not bad. Like, this is actually kind of like a normal Alabama road. Oh, hello there. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, maybe this is a little rough. Then maybe that is a little rough. You know, I didn't see that. I mean, you know, maybe we were just on a nice part of town last time. Maybe. But let me show y'all what I would think. Now, that actually was rough. Like, I didn't know there was an entire encampment of humans in the trees. But beyond that, let me move us on down into Alabama. And let me show y'all a town that I actually kind of like, but I still will not deny it's really sketch. Sylacauga is a place that exists here in Alabama. And if you go down certain streets, you will feel like that you're in danger. Like this one, right here. This is like a normal street in Sylacauga, by the way, Hightower Avenue. You know, it's literally just like any other street in the town. But like the entire town feels like it's abandoned, or you feel like you're about to have your hubcaps stripped off the car. Because it's just, I don't know, like Sylacauga isn't that bad of a place. It's just that it looks like abandoned and fairly rough. Like, I think y'all can kind of get that from here. And this is what Alabama kind of normally looks like, is streets like these in towns. Like, this is the norm. If anything's better than this, it's considered incredibly good. But this is considered average, just to kind of give you all an idea of how rough Alabama can kind of be. So whenever we see people say things like, oh, you know, like this is a hood or this place is rough, and we see them and they actually look like a really nice part of Alabama, we're like, man, like that's not a rough place. That's fairly normal. This is what
y'all ever seen a place called Selma? Like, have y'all seen that? Show them Selma.
Does the Google streetcar even go through Selma? Like is it even
I'm not
allowed?
sure. Like Selma's pretty rough. Selma, Bessemer is another really rough one. Like very bad crime. But let's see. I think the main street here in Selma looks all right.
Yeah,
it's like there's some really bad parts of Selma though, like really, really bad. I've been through them; they're rough.
Let's see. Nah, this isn't it. This is actually. Is Selma really as bad as we remember it? Because maybe it was really bad like 10 years ago when we drove through. But it doesn't look that bad now. I mean, actually, it's kind of nice. Like, you know, they got like nice, well-kept lawns and stuff. Man, did someone get a bad rap for like one time we drove through it like 11 years ago and it looks like a war zone? Because it actually doesn't look that bad this time around.
Now, there's a bad side, like a really bad side of Selma. I don't know what side it is, and I don't go there all the time. I've only been there like once or twice, but it's tough in some spots.
And well, the thing is that Selma has a really bad reputation in all of Alabama because everyone moves from Selma elsewhere, and then they bring like the horror story of Selma with them. So the only thing you hear about Selma ever is, "Oh, don't go to Selma, you'll die in Selma." And really, to be honest, it didn't look that bad there. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a bad rap that everyone gives Selma. I don't know why, for no reason, maybe. But Let me think here. Where would a rough place? Bessemer is a rough place. Now, that's no doubt. Bessemer is like one of the roughest places here in Bammy. So let me show y'all what Bessemer looks like. So, yeah, this is a running store, by the way, right here, and the sign is falling off of the building. Like, you know, it's kind of a bit of a rough place. Man, there's some crazy people over here in Bessemer too. Like you got like the craziest people. Like there are like straight up members of certain groups out here. Like, and I'm not talking about like the Crips and the Bloods. I'm talking about the one that has the K's in the name. Like, wait a minute.
Oh man, they got some hardcore racist stuff going on over here in
geez,
Bessemer, like real bad. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life, except in Bessemer. It was something I was like blown away by.
Like Bessemer is the extremes of all directions come together. You've got the most racist people you've ever seen, and then you have the most like non-racist people you've ever seen, and then you have gangs like literally just running the town in between, and it's like the most bizarre thing. I think this is the courthouse, which is why it looks nice, if I remember correctly. And also the county office center over here. Those were like the only nice buildings. The oldest restaurant in Alabama is actually down the street. It's called the Gold Star, I believe. Let me see if it is. The Bright Star, actually. This is the oldest restaurant that's still running in Alabama. And I was actually told by someone who came here years ago to eat that Bessemer was so bad back in the day, it's actually gotten better, that they had an armed guard that would escort you from the parking lot, literally right over there, to the front door of the restaurant. Otherwise, you get mugged if they weren't there. So you can kind of get an idea of how rough Bessemer is. But the roughest place here in Alabama, at least as far as the crime goes, is Fairfield. So let me see if I can find. Here we go. Here's Fairfield. This is supposedly the roughest place. I've never looked at it on a street view, so it might look fine. No, it doesn't. It looks pretty bad. So this is actually.
I've been through here.
I have not. I've never been through Fairfield.
I made a wrong turn one time off the interstate, getting off here, and I drove straight through it, and I didn't realize where I was. And I realized I was getting some very, very odd glances from certain people. I was like, huh, this is interesting. I think I'm in the wrong spot. I think I'm in grave danger here. So then I turned around and got right back on the interstate and left.
Man, oh my lord. Look at the roads.
This is tough.
This
what
is
that? Was that Bigfoot in front yard? What was that?
Where?
Turn to the left. There was like a statue like in the front yard. Turn to the left.
Dang, it is Bigfoot.
What the hell?
What's that over there? There's another Bigfoot. They got Bigfoots all over the yard. But dude, the road is horrendous, man. Like, it looks like it was paved in like 1908, and then they never really paved it again. Like, they just let it crumble. But yeah, this is what we consider in Alabama to be rough. Like this is actually rough. So when anyone shows us anything, they're like, "Oh, look at a hood," and it's like Bangor, Maine. We're like, "Hey, that looks great. Like we would live there. We would move there." But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Oh, by the way, to give you all an idea of why the property values are maybe low around this area, U.S. Steel runs their major pipe production factory over here. This is it. So yeah, if you were wondering, why does it look kind of rough around here? That's because it's pretty much situated and saddled amongst a whole bunch of major industries. So that lowers the property value. But anyways, also the ongoing gang wars also lower the property value a little bit more as well. But it is also the industrial areas. But downtown Birmingham can also be rough as well. Like literally right past this Topgolf, it turns into a PvP enabled arena. So let me see if I can show you all that. Actually, this isn't the rough part. Where in the world is the rough part, man? You know the part where the building's collapsing in the middle of everything? Is it this one?
Maybe.
Let me see. The building hadn't started to collapse. Oh, there's the abandoned church, but the building hadn't started to collapse yet here because I think this building, it literally just started to cave in on itself. It's near the Topgolf. And every time you go to Topgolf, you just see this giant ruin of a building in the distance that's slowly collapsing. And no one's demolishing it or anything. They're just letting it fall apart. But Birmingham is kind of a rougher place. But there are nicer places. Like, funnily enough, Mountain Brook is actually like the wealthiest part of Alabama. And it's literally right near to like the most crime-ridden part of Alabama in Fairfield, which isn't that far away. really weird how that works, but still, Birmingham isn't all that bad, but it looks a lot rougher than what most people would consider hoods in their localities. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Big thanks once again for the support and help of this channel to keep on running, and also letting us take a look at Bangor, Maine. It wasn't that bad, except for the whole camp of bandits that were off in the woods near the airport. But with that, thank you once again. We're on to the next one.
Bandits. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat. This one goes to Monsieur Gaston, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Monsieur, for that support. He said, any rock for sale, Governor? No, we don't sell rock around here. Sorry.
And we don't sell any rock around here, but we do sell plum. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Monsieur Gaston. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to say Monsieur Gaston unironically on this channel and have a blast with it. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I just saw Governor Ivy say, I just got back from Roebuck. Ooh, Roebuck. Jeez. Let me go.
Here's Roebuck.
Roebuck. Where is Roebuck? Okay, well, Roebuck isn't the worst place. It's not the worst to me. Although it is near Irondale, and Irondale certainly has a reputation to uphold, and it's not a good one. Actually, if I remember correctly, I drove through here. It wasn't that bad. Let me drop down and see.
Oh no, Roebuck's not that bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not fantastic, but it's not as bad as like Fairfield or anything.
This is what we would call kind of country-ish. It's almost it's a suburb, but it's almost like it's in the country with how things are kept up. It's not that bad. But hell, anything west of Birmingham, it's bad. Like, you know, I think that's really interesting, Matthew, that it's like that, because this is the highway that leads to Tuscaloosa.
I mean, Tuscaloosa's rough.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, it's the college. It's not the college that consumes a large portion of Tuscaloosa, but no, Tuscaloosa's rough.
It doesn't look that rough, Matthew. It doesn't look that rough. No, look, it's the University of Alabama. I wonder what they're up to. All heinous shit in their frats. But hey, it's fine. But anyways.
So, by the way, Monsieur asked for that marmot, by the way.
Oh, yeah, by the way, we got to go grab that marmot, Matthew. What the hell am I talking about Tuscaloosa for? Anyways, let's go grab that marmot. Let's see here. Let me go grab it. Let's see. Wait, we have to get the other one. Hang on. Hold up a moment. Excuse me. Oh, hello there. Hey!
Hello there, Governor. My mic won't pick me up when I'm talking too loud, but hello there, Governor. Could I interest you in 2 plums, two grapes, or two leaves, or anything like that? Would you like a hot dog?
Would you like a rook? Oh man, could I interest you in losing 100 subscribers per day? Oh man, I know that everyone's hearing the same bull that I'm putting out, but I'm not going to stop putting it out because the world must know. His 5 fans must know. It's like, oh, come on. It's like, don't be so self-centered and self-righteous. It's like that guy pisses me off, man, with that stupidity. It's like he's destroying his own channel and acting like no one's hearing what he's saying. He's like, I have to tell the world that a person running for president is bad. It's like there are like 90 million people out there right now saying that about each person. It's like, you're not doing anyone any favors. It's like, that is so stupid. And he acts like he has a voice, like he's actually letting people know. That is that kind of delusion right there, Matthew, that led him to be as psychotic as he is. That right there. But beyond that, it is wonderful to see the marmot. We haven't got to see the marmot for a little while, actually. And I thank you, Monsieur Gaston, for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, and also allowing us to see the marmot tonight. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that quite well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Neiman Bauer once again, who puts in a 10 and says, how would the U.S. react if, like, all 3 crisis areas escalated at once? China, Taiwan, Russia, NATO, and Israel, Iran, and Hezbollah, etc.
Right now, I would assume that the United States would ramp down if that happened. Crazily enough, that's kind of how we're doing things these days. If I was the president, we would be ramping up in response to everything going on in all 3 areas at the same time. That's how I would manage it. A lot of people would say, well, we can't do that. We did it in World War II. We did it in World War I. We did it in every war. Why couldn't we do it again? If we have to, we have to. So that's the way I would do it, but America these days would probably ramp down. Well, the American leadership these days would ramp it down, but I think that's a very poor decision to make, in my honest opinion. But still, thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that the best I can, Neiman Bauer. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to a channel legend, Duncan VR, who puts in an 11 Australian. And thank you very much, Duncan, for that support. He says, Secretary Blinky encloses your CIA payment for the last 2 years. Mr. Putin says, Baba Moof, Woof, Quack, Moo, Mao. Oh, oh man. Yeah. Chairman Mao, he said, oh man, don't do it, meow, Baba.
Wait, he said, Baba Roof Mao.
Mao Zedong.
Oh man, the great leader, man. I'm telling you, man. He is the chairman. He's the helmsman of the party. But anyways, with that,
he's got that look in his eyes like I'm gonna wipe them all out.
he said, I'm gonna make him kill the sparrows. This will be a very important event 20 years later.
Jeez, man, this guy right here. I tell you what.
Oh,
He's
man.
a character.
Dude, look at him.
That's him?
Yeah, that's him in 1910.
Yeah, how do you go from that to the other thing?
Well, it took about 20 years' time, but here he is in 1913, and here he is in 1924, and here he is in 1919, and then here he is.
Is he getting older, younger, or what?
Here he is in 1925 in Guangzhou province, and then here he is in 1927. And then later on, this is him in the 30s. Jeez, that was a rough time for him in the 30s. He ended up getting...
I'm convinced this is not the same person right here.
This is the same person, man. This is the same person. Here he is in 1937, right there to the right. Where's another good picture of him? Here is Mao to the left right here. But moving on from that, here he is right here announcing the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. Who the hell is this? Is he like an anime character or something? Like, dude, who the hell is that guy with that haircut and white hair? Like, that's kind of a little bizarre. Anyways, let's see here. Here he is in 1955. This is probably the Mao everyone starts to know, at least in terms of appearance. You know, where he looks kind of like a dogged and haggard, possibly. Here he is in 1972, meeting Henry Kissinger. Isn't that crazy? But anyways, let's see.
Oh, yes, Henry with the best policy.
Oh, like they made a statue of young Mao.
Is that real?
Yeah, that's real in Hunan.
I respect the precision.
I don't really respect it though. It seems kind of weird. But anyways, here's another statue properly representing Mao in his haggard state. And then oh look, they got a statue of Mao like Lenin out here holding the hand upwards into the sky.
Huh? You know, that's kind of a little bit vain.
Yeah, a little bit, but they called him on this one instead of Mao Zedong, they called him Mao Zedong. Like they just spelled it out, like no joke. They called him Mao Zedong. Man.
You, sir, are you here to receive?
Are you here to receive my lip manifesto? Something like that. Oh, dude, what the hell? Dude, he looked old as hell there, man. Like, it's only 1964, man. He already looked like he was dying. Jeez. I guess the mango doesn't make you eternal after all. Hey, does it? But anyways, thank you for the support, Duncan VR, and throwing in the traditional animal noises. It's only fair that the traditional animal noises are thrown in on a night like this, so the second to last night before our time off in between September 14th to the 18th. I gotta thank you once again for support and help with this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Sandblaster, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Sandblaster, for that support. I think it's the first one ever. It said Putin spends most of his time at Novo Orgario in his home southwest of Moscow. And what would Putin do if a drone hit his home? And what say you?
He would probably cry a lot, and that would be about it. Because you really can't justify national action for a house like that getting blown up, especially if no one was in it. He would have a really hard time selling that to the public, like my house got blown up, let's nuke him. Like a lot of people wouldn't get behind that, so he would have a hard time selling that. So really nothing would happen. It would be kind of like a symbolic gesture. But with that, I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Point of Guinness, who puts in a 5. and says how long before Russians start using the ruble as toilet paper because it's not worth the paper it's printed on.
Toilet pepper? I've never heard of anyone using toilet pepper. I'm just kidding with you. Point at Guinness. I know you said toilet paper. Well, actually, no, it actually says toilet pepper. It actually says toilet pepper. Man, I'm telling you, that was one hell of a number 2 right there. Let me whip out the pepper. Jalapeno or bell pepper. But anyways, beyond that, I do have to thank you for the support, Point at Guinness, and I do know you were trying to say toilet paper. But still, I would say it's probably now. I mean, the future is now. And I would say they probably could start using it because it's about that worthless. I mean, hell, 100 rubles is equivalent to $1, so you could use $1 to wipe your ass and get back to it. Which is chronic drinking, that is. But still, thank you so much once again for supporting on this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Matthew Foxtrot, who puts in a 5 and says, off topic, but I can see Putin using tactical nukes in the event that Ukraine gets closer to Moscow before giving up power. And if this happens, what will NATO do?
If Russia used tactical nukes on their own territory, no one would do anything because they're defending their own sovereignty at that point, which they largely have a right to do according to the UN Charter, and also they have a right to do that under their own nuclear doctrine. So really nothing would be done. It would just be considered a bit of a tragedy. Well, really a big tragedy, but it would be what it is. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Com777, who puts in a 5, and that's their first ever super chat, by the way, on the stream. Huge shout out to you. And they said, I just found you guys, and you guys are great. Hey, and thank you very much. We're glad you liked the stream, and thank you for being here as well. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you, Com777, for just finding us and already liking it. I got to thank you for the support and helping the channel to keep on running, and welcome to the Lee Spring Army. I hope you're here to stay. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to White Quill, who puts in a 5 and says, what about the Silk Road from the 2nd century BCE to the 15th century CE? And you said that there had been only exploration during the Age of Exploration.
And the Silk Road doesn't necessarily count because the Silk Road wasn't really exploration. It was actually pretty compartmentalized. Everyone in the Byzantine Empire kind of knew that there was stuff further east, but they really didn't know what, and everything that they knew was kind of passed down from person to person along the Silk Road that were told different stories about what was at the end, which was the Chinese. So no one really knew much about that. Marco Polo was the first one to actually make the expedition through the entire length of the Silk Road into China and then back, and then live to tell the tale and tell everyone what was going on out there in the East. So kind of exploratory, but not really exploration in the sense of finding new things. Like, everyone in Europe knew that the Chinese existed and that cultures and societies existed further east, and everyone in China and India kind of knew that cultures existed further west as well. It's just that they really didn't know what they exactly looked like. Now, that's completely different than understanding that there actually was more to Africa than just this northern coast, because actually no one really knew that until way later in the 1400s when let's see, I believe his name was oh my lord, I'm forgetting the guy's name. But he was the first Portuguese guy to actually circumnavigate Africa and make his way to India that way. And that's the first time that they understood that Africa had more to it than just Northern Europe. Because up until that point, the only thing that the Europeans knew of was the coast of North Africa in the Mediterranean. They didn't know of anything further south than that. So that was new in itself. That was exploratory in its own right. Discovering the Americas in its entire is the biggest discovery of the Age of Exploration, because literally no one in the world knew that the Americas actually existed up until that point in any real way. Now, some people say Prince Murdoch of Wales ended up arriving actually in Alabama, weirdly enough, and ended up discovering the Americas. And he actually ended up writing about it, but no one believed the guy and no one really cared. And then Leif Erikson, before Prince Murdoch even landed in America and kind of colonized it a little bit for the Vikings, or really just the Norse. But then that settlement died and it really didn't mean anything. So while there had been people in America, the discovery wasn't profound at that point and it didn't mean anything to anyone, so they don't really count. But that would be my best answer for that. And also, Vasco da Gama is the guy who was the Portuguese fella that ended up circling around Africa. Thank you for correcting me on that mosquito bite, because I forgot the guy's name, crazily enough. But still, thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Wyatt Logan, who puts in a 5. He says, hello from one workaholic to 2 others. Enjoy your vacation and create memories to last a lifetime. And just like Hot Dog Man did with Crush's mom.
Oh!
LSA forever.
And LSA forever, Wyatt Logan. I gotta thank you for the support. And I always found this funny back in the day. This has ended up dropping off after a while, but I remember we'd be like, man, like, we've been working really hard this week on getting out this news. And then someone would be like, look at those hands. Those ain't working hands. I work 140 hours a week. You don't know work. And there would always be that in the live chat. That's kind of disappeared at this point. But I still thank you so much for saying from one workaholic to the next, you hope we have a great holiday. And I hope we do have a great holiday, a dark holiday. But still, thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. And so, thank you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and a good joke, by the way, too. Good punchline. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to Eric Ellingwood. Once again, he puts in a $4 donation, and thank you very much, Eric, as well. They said Bangor, Maine, Cleveland Street versus Cedar Street, and New Forest Farm, Viola, Wisconsin transplant to Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support. And let's see here. Bangor, Maine, Cleveland Street. In, let's see, Bangor, Maine. And so there we go, we found it. So this is fairly similar to the last street. It's in the same area. Are we going to see a camp of bandits? My heavens, we have a herbalist. They appear to be seeking wild herbs. Very interesting indeed. Oh my heavens! We have a camp of bandits here, bandits and ruffians that are hanging out in the forests nearby. I feel like the Lord of the Manor will be very displeased with this, and will most likely rally the peasantry to cast these people from the lands. Fairly interesting though. They're starting to develop a small society. They are actually getting semi-permanent structures now, so that is interesting. And it appears that they've also discovered the wheel, because there are many wheeled objects in this area. But this would be a bit rough. Downtown Birmingham's like this now, sort of, so it's not that crazy, but this is hoodish. I will not disagree with that. So now that we've looked at Cleveland Street, let us take a look at Cedar Street. So where is Cedar Street? Cedar Street, Bangor, Maine. Here we go. Cedar Street. Actually, Cedar Street's pretty freaking long. Hold up. Is it at this cul-de-sac? I have a feeling if anything's going to be anywhere... Okay, we can't go down there. So, what is up here? Oh, that's a really nice house. That's crazy, though. Like, you have, like, really nice houses and stuff. And then you have, like, craziness, like, around. It's not a great thing. Let's see. Yeah, this isn't that bad of a town. Like, Bangor, Maine is actually pretty decent. But the whole encampment thing, like, right outside of town, not really a great thing. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, come on. And it's like, it's not a great thing. Like, it usually, like, I'll be honest, from my experience here in Birmingham, anything that looks along those lines is not home to people who are just simply downtrodden on their luck. They're almost like mindless criminals or tweakers, and it's just not good to have a concentration of them around like that, because it makes it to where normal people that actually live their lives, work jobs, and do what they're supposed to do in their daily life, they can't go over there because they're like, I don't want to get stabbed and shivved by some tweaker so that way they can get $50 or something off of me. Like, that's how it actually works. Like, I know a lot of people don't want to hear the reality of that, but that's how it is. So you got to come up with something to do. Like, you got to figure out how to put them in some sort of house. There's many ways that people want to work around it. You can either put them in some sort of housing, or you can just try and move them on and make them someone else's problem, some town further down the line. But something has to be done about this kind of stuff, because it's really starting to draw, really pull entire towns down, because usually, like, a lot of people don't want to admit this, but no one wants to live around that, because it ends up creating pretty much a hellhole once you walk outside your house, because you're scared of these people doing something insane. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Pretty rough out there near the airport. I'm not gonna lie. Camp of bandits out there, really. But, but with that, thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a $2 donation. And thank you very much, Sergeant, for that support. He said, LSA, hit the like button. That's an order.
And I got to thank you for the support, LSA Sergeant Figment, and please hit the like button if you can, folks. It really would help out massively. Because we've gotten up to 3,200 likes so far, and I know that we're going to get much higher than that. Yes, indeed. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well, and thank you for being here with us tonight, LSA Sergeant Figment, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the last, which I also saw Vinny Matthew say, everywhere in America has an encampment. I don't feel like it should be that way. You know, like it's one thing to have homeless people in general, because the reality a lot of people don't want to face is that there always will be homeless people, because no matter how many benefits or incentivized programs that you give to get people off the streets, there are actually people who prefer that as a lifestyle, or they don't want to meet the criteria to get into some sort of a shelter or find some way out of it. Like, for example, some programs require that you be drug free before you get any kind of assistance or help, and usually some people find that to be an absolute no-no. Like, they would rather live on the streets and, just live that kind of a life for some reason instead of getting off of drugs. And that's something that a lot of people kind of find a little bit odd, because then people will go, oh, okay, well, they can just kind of hang out. It's like, no, it's like, that's, first off, there, especially in pretty much most states, well, really any state, cocaine and any kind of drug along those lines that isn't weed, because weed's kind of the one that's up in the air, it depends on the state to state basis, but any other kind of drug, that's just a felony, like, to even possess it for the large part. So it's like, we shouldn't be having people who are openly fine with conducting a felony grouping up into giant camps, and then going around and further encouraging or conducting felonious behaviors around that area. It's just not good for the area. You got to find out something to do with them. Either I can't get into that, because then that really does start to get political with all the different options. I'm not saying that one's the answer, but I'd be throwing out options there. But something has to be done about it, instead of just always waffling around about what are we going to do about it. We got to figure out something to actually do with them one way or the other. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the last super chat of the night, and then we're going to be moving on to some live chats.
All right, so the last one goes to Point of Guinness, who put in another $2 donation, and thank you very much, Point of Guinness, for that support. And with that, we're now moving on to our live chat questions and the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Benu, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, and Her Royal Fluffiness, along with Arabelle Garbo. They said that the Morse code decipher says, Putin threatening the West is soy. I wonder if we crossed their line. Womp womp, LSA.
And that is the sound of money, and y'all got that dead on the nail. A huge congratulations for y'all for getting that Morse code message correct. Really impressive stuff right there. And I gotta say, a huge congratulations to y'all for getting that correct on the 932nd day of the war. And so with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Ron Burrell Jr. He said, have the Ukrainians built their own version of a missile like the ATACMS?
They've tried to. The closest thing they have is the Fram or the Grim. It's really a modified Iskander, or a Ukrainian-produced version of an Iskander. It's not that effective. So, yes, they kind of have one, but it's not as effective as the ATACMS, and probably never will be. And so I hope that addresses that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night. Also, I saw someone say someone started this. No, once again, like with the whole homeless thing. No one started that. The truth is that it's always existed. It's gotten a lot worse recently due to a whole bunch of a myriad of factors here in America. It's gotten worse. And no side has really come up with a good solution to it, because we live in Alabama. And I will tell you this, no matter where you go in Alabama, there are homeless people, and neither side has found a solution to this problem. There has to be something to be done. Like, there has to be a way to fix this problem, because it has always existed, and it always will exist, but it's never existed this prevalently, and it's never had this much of an impact, especially on cityscapes in this country's history, at least since the Great Depression. And so, with that, I hope that I hope that kind of puts that out there, at least in my opinion, on that fairly well. But with that, we are on, I think, to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person through in the lucky last question of the night?
And this viewer is Sea Dog Pirate, who says Egypt is getting rid of their F-16s for made-in-China Temu jets. Do you all think they'll give their F-16s to Ukraine?
I would doubt it that Egypt would. I don't think they've ever provided military support to Ukraine before. And Egypt also has not exactly bad relations with the Russians. It's not good. It's not bad. It's kind of in the middle. It's kind of an indifferent relationship with the Russians. And I think they probably don't want to jeopardize that position of an indifferent relationship at the moment. They probably want to keep it kind of around that area. So I would doubt it. They're most likely going to try and sell their F-16s to scrap or sell them off to someone else in the world. Probably at discounted prices, but they'll still be making money off of them instead of just giving them to Ukraine largely for free. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, we've reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to thank every single one of y'all so much once again for watching the stream tonight. There's been a massive load of people who've been here tonight, 70,000 people. And at the peak of the stream, there was actually about 10.4 thousand people here. I've got to thank every one of y'all once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy and y'all are new to the channel, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It makes us really happy when folks do, because it lets us know that y'all enjoy what we're putting out. And boy, do we put out a lot of videos and streams on this channel. Now, we will not be able to do that in between September 14th through the 18th. If y'all see anything during that time, like a short war summary, consider that to be out of the norm during those next few days, because we will be on vacation during that time, and we'll be back on the 19th. But a huge thanks to all of y'all once again for watching. Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, good night to you all, and once again, thank you for another fantastic stream, and tomorrow will be our last stream before we go on our hiatus on this little vacation we got coming up here. So with that, of course, get some rest tonight, and Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, and be sure to join us tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern, the usual time for the next War News stream, and also maybe midday tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is the Enforcer's video day, so if there is news to cover, he'll be on top of it. But with that, thank you all. Oh, yes, hello. And with that, thank you all once again, and good night.
Yes. The Lee Spring Army sends its regards.
Смотри!